in the VOW has received the attention of the Deputy President Paul Mashatile. The Commission for the Promotion and Protection of the Rights of Cultural, Religious and Linguistic Communities says it's engaging stakeholders in its investigation of Ntandongoza's disappearance. He disappeared last year on the 19th of December after travelling to an initiation school in the area to assist with cultural and educational activities. Community activist Thomas Maseko.
We warmly welcome the intervention of His Excellency, the Deputy President of the country. This is a clear indication that the case is receiving attention at the highest level of government. We also welcome the CRL Commission's confirmation that a formal investigation is underway and that its senior leadership is now directly involved in this matter.
Johannesburg Waters says clinics, hospitals, schools and old age homes are its priority as it carries out repairs. It follows a major pipe burst that is affecting water supply to parts of Soweto. The power utility says additional material required for the repairs is expected to be delivered today. It also says it's using trucks to provide alternative water supply to the affected residents. Nombuso Chabalala is Johannesburg Water spokesperson.
Johannesburg Water teams continue with repairs following a major pipe burst affecting supply to the Zondi Reservoir, the Zondi Tower and the Dobsonville direct feed. Although repair work started immediately and teams have worked around the clock, additional work was required to ensure that the new section of pipe can be safely connected to the existing infrastructure. The additional material needed for this work is expected to be delivered on the 16th of June 2026. Once it has been delivered, teams will complete the remaining repairs and then be able to determine an estimated time for restoration for water supply in the area.
And finally, the US has showed off its sea drone technology in naval exercises with NATO allies in the Baltic Sea. The exercises come after a Navy sea drone rescued 2 US Army crew after their helicopter was down near the Strait of Hormuz during the US-Iran conflict. Lieutenant Sarah Weinstein is the commanding officer for the US Navy's Unmanned Surface Vessel Division.
As an emerging technology, it's not something that every country has the opportunity to train or practice with all the time. So it's been an opportunity for us to get close to the NATO warships, to see what they look like up close from our view, and also allow them to practice identifying USVs and practice their internal response if they were to spot one while operating.
Recapping the top story, President Cyril Ramaphosa will lead the National Youth Day commemoration and deliver the keynote address in Soweto this morning. For SAfm News, I am Anne Musa.
50 years ago, young South Africans changed the course of history. Today, a new generation asks a different question. What have we inherited and what must we build next? This Youth Day, SAfm joins forces with South Africa's leading campus radio stations for a series of powerful national simulcasts. The National Briefing and Voice of Vets, exploring education, employment and economic opportunity. The Daily Discourse and Northwest University FM, examining democracy, leadership and active citizenship. The Full Circle and Radio Turf, reflecting on identity, culture and social cohesion. Students, communities, leaders and listeners. One country, one conversation. 50 years after June 16. Join SAfm and Campus Radio as we explore where South Africa has come from, where we are and where we need to go. Youth Day 2026, 50 years later, only on SAfm. SAfm, South Africa's national meeting place and still leading the conversations that move us.
It's a very good morning to you in your SAfm sports headlines. Soccer action. It's a very youthful Cape Verde side who frustrate Spain in the World Cup shock as African sides continue to impress. And Bafana coach Hugo Bruges is expected to stick with the 5-3-2 formation. Let's find out more at around 6:30.
The National Briefing on SAfm. Clarity, context, and conversation. This is where the day begins with Kathy Mutlatlana on the National Briefing.
It's 8 after 6 o'clock. You're listening to the National Briefing. Welcome to the show. My name is Kathy Mutlatlana. It is Tuesday, the 16th of June. And I'll tell you what, today is absolutely no ordinary day. Yes, it is Youth Day. Many of you will be taking the day off. In fact, I've noticed you're taking the weekend off. But it is still a day worth commemorating, remembering the generation of 76, 50 years on. It's half a century since the children of Soweto walked out of their classrooms in Orlando West, refusing to be taught in the language of their oppression, and were met with live ammunition. More than 200 of them did not come home on that day. The question we asked this morning, 50 years on, what exactly did they win? And most importantly, what is still owed? And this morning, I'm not going to be asking that question alone. We're also going to be bringing in my colleagues from my alma mater. I must say, my first introduction to radio was at Voice of Wits FM. And joining us in the studio today is Valerie and Gregory. They, of course, do the morning show on Voice of Wits. Good morning, guys.
Morning, Kathy. Morning. How are you?
Where's the youthful energy? You're supposed to have more energy than I do. Why am I not getting the youthful exuberance from you?
So we have a thing that we do on our show every morning.
Please go ahead and do it.
And it's kind of how we kind of kickstart and jumpstart the morning.
Go ahead. You have
so
my
what we
permission.
do is we say good morning, obviously, but the tune is like a good morning, but we have to do it together. So if you could join us, maybe it can.
Okay, all right. You guys go first, and then I'll join the second round.
All right. So we'll say a very good morning to you. To you we say good morning. Then you join us on that one.
Okay, all right.
Okay, shall we try again?
I got it.
All right, let's do it. So, as it is Youth Day, to you we say good morning.
There we go. A different good morning then on the National Briefing. It's going to be an exciting show. Valerie and Gregory are going to be joining me for this broadcast. So, guys, what can people expect from you this morning? At some point, I'm literally going to hand over to you, and I'm going to go to the local Wimpy and grab a Rooibos tea while I listen on air. Don't look so nervous. I'll still be in studio. But tell us about what you guys have in store for us today.
We've got a great show prepared, obviously bringing you up to speed with everything, breaking news in and around South Africa and our city, obviously with the Voice of It, so covering a lot of what's happening in Johannesburg. But don't worry, South Africa, we've got all your news covering from coast to coast. We're also going to be bringing some stories and some great stories about youth, about young people that are making incredible change in our country 50 years later, looking back, but also looking forward. What are the next 50 years looking like? When it comes to youth in our country and the state of the youth. So for the next 3 hours, we're just going to be featuring and celebrating the youth of our beautiful nation.
Fantastic. And Valerie, what does it mean to you, thinking about the generation of 76 and you being a young person today? Your reflections just on what that meant.
I mean, I think, the youth of 76 definitely fought a very difficult fight to allow us to, remove all the barriers that they had. But we now have, some form of access, but maybe a lack of opportunity unity. And I think we as young people have the voice to allow other young people to be heard and be a catalyst for their thoughts and for their needs. So it's really exciting that we get to be on this platform, specifically on Voice of Wits, but now today on SAfm as well, to be able to speak to the whole country so they can hear the needs of young people. So super excited.
Okay, so that's what you can expect then also coming up on the show. So it is going to be a jam-packed youth day. No slacking here on the National Briefing. Public holiday for what? For who? And of course, while we commemorate the youth of 76, the country this morning also mourning the loss of one of its greatest cultural giants. Abdullah Ibrahim has died at the age of 91. From Cape Town's District 6 to the world's great concert halls, his music became the soundtrack to both resistance and reconciliation. What can be said about his composition, Mallenberg? It became more than just a jazz standard for many South Africans. It was the sound of freedom itself.
A lot of us were in exile in New York, and the African National Congress asked me to play a more visible role, that we should use the culture and the music just to put a human or a humane face on our struggle. The ANC then asked me where we could have this rally, the first launch, and I suggested Carnegie Hall.
This morning, we remember a man who helped tell South Africa's story through music when so many voices were being silenced. It's a special edition of the National Briefing, the hashtag 50 years later Simulcast, and we'll bring you more on that through the next 3 hours. You know what to do, right? You've got to stay tuned between now and 9 o'clock as we bring you clarity, context, and conversation.
Sanborn, this is Shugela from Amalanga Wafani.
Hi, my name is Sipho Mbele, playing the role of Mahlangu on Amalanga Wafani.
Sanbonani, hello, my name is Zazi Kunene, and I play Untando on the new season of Amalanga Wafani. Catch Amalanga Wafani on SABC 1.
Do yourself a favor, tune in
every weekday at 6:30 p.m. only on SABC 1.
That's for sure.
This is Kathy Mutlatlana on the National Briefing.
All right, it's 16 after 6 o'clock. Let's take a look at what you can expect on your weather. There are no warnings or advisories issued for today. So we'll just get straight into it then. In Pretoria, the weather's partly cloudy. A low of 7 and a high of 19. The expected UVB sunburn index is low. Johannesburg, partly cloudy, 5 and 17. Vereeniging, partly cloudy, 3 and 18. Mbombela, cloudy with morning drizzle, becoming partly cloudy by the afternoon, 10 and 20. Polokwane, partly cloudy, 5 and 20. Mahikeng, fine, becoming partly cloudy from late morning, 5 and 22. Vryburg, fine, becoming partly cloudy from late morning, 6 and 23. Bloemfontein, fine, becoming partly cloudy in the afternoon, 4 and 20. Kimberley, fine, becoming partly cloudy in the afternoon. 7 and 21. Uppington, partly cloudy with isolated showers and thunder showers. 7 and 24. Cape Town, fine, wind moderate to fresh southerly to southeasterly, reaching strong at times. 12 and 18. The expected UVB sunburn index is low. In George, partly cloudy, wind light and variable, a low of 8 and a high of 17. In Gqeberha, cloudy in the morning, becoming partly cloudy, wind light to moderate westerly, becoming light southerly in the afternoon, but light easterly in the evening. 10 and 18. East London, cloudy with a chance of light morning showers, otherwise partly cloudy. Wind light to moderate westerly, becoming light southerly in the afternoon. 12 and 19. In Durban, partly cloudy with isolated showers and rain. Wind light to moderate southerly to southwesterly, becoming easterly to southeasterly in the afternoon. 7 and 22. The expected UVB sunburn index is low. Richards Bay, partly cloudy with isolated showers and rain. Wind moderate southerly to southwesterly, becoming southeasterly in the afternoon. 17 and 23. In Pietermaritzburg, partly cloudy with isolated showers and rain. 12 and 19.
Keep moving through 6 a.m. call times, the rain, dirt tracks, and moving through tight deadlines. Because you move with purpose, from the first stop to the final drop. The Hino 700 truck tractor comes standard with a 6-year drivetrain warranty and advanced safety features tailored to your industry. The Hino 700 is built to fuel your business's progress. Hino, all the way.
50 years later, Youth Month, The Voices.
When I have control over native education, I will reform it so that the natives will be taught from childhood that equality with Europeans is not for them.
Today's youth, we live a very selfish life. We're always thinking about, how do I grow myself? How do I improve myself? And yes, refining and growing in self is important. But the youth of 96 was willing to risk their lives for future generations to have something that almost seems so basic now that we forget that it was once not promised. It was once not guaranteed. Learning in your mother tongue, being educated in your mother tongue is something that we take for granted today.
The Global Briefing on SAfm.
It's 20 after 6 o'clock. Let's get into our global briefing then for today. The key story we're tracking takes us to France for the G7 at the shores of Lake Geneva. And this is where the summit is really being pulled into the orbit of one announcement, and that's a deal between the United States and Iran to end 15 weeks of war. President Donald Trump arrived saying he has a breakthrough. The European leaders have been congratulating him, although they've been kept out of the decision to go to war in the first place. And what everybody's really looking out for is the Strait of Hormuz and whether that's going to be reopened for good. Dr. Naledi Modise is a lecturer in political science and international relations at Northwest University. Dr. Modise, good morning to you. Thanks for your time this morning. So really lots of bated breath then on the sidelines of the G7. As things stand, are we at a genuine turning point with this US-Iran agreement?
And good morning to the listeners. It seems like it. From what President Trump has said, he says that he hopes that, or by Friday, the Strait of Hormuz will be opened. And I think that is an important turning point, an important milestone in this 3-month-long war, which obviously they did not expect to take place or to continue on for this long. And so the expectation that, or his announcement that by Friday, that everything in the Strait of Hormuz should be open is quite something to look forward to. And it seems like there is an intention, particularly from the US, considering how this particular war has impacted the global supply chain of oil, which has increased, which has exacerbated the increase in the cost of living crisis. And so I think that there's a genuine intention from them to have this particular war end, because not only did it increase this cost of living, but also the fact that it kind of put under scrutiny its ability to work and support its allies in that region. So I think that they're also looking for a genuine end to this war.
The Europeans were largely sidelined, right, when the US made the decision to go to war. When it comes to this meeting at the G7, are we expecting that there are going to be expectations that their help come in with a cleanup in as far as the fallout from the war?
Please repeat the question, Kathy.
What I'm asking you is, are we expecting that the broader G7 countries are going to be roped in to be part of the cleanup that has come as a fallout from the war?
Definitely. I think that Trump's brute approach, this individualistic approach that he has taken in this particular war, has really alienated the U.S. in some extent. I mean, there was a bit of pushback from the European nations in terms of his attendance. And so I think that there is an intention from their end to have a more unified approach in the actions taken forward in the Middle East, particularly about how then they're going to stabilize the region, or what support is going to be given to the Gulf states who work so closely with the EU and the United States. So I definitely think that there'll be a more concerted, unified approach in ensuring that peace and stability does take place in the Middle East in this time.
Yeah, it also seems that there are going to be a couple of elephants in the room. One being India. 3 of its sailors died. This was during a U.S. strike or U.S. operation in the Strait of Hormuz. Washington has refused to apologize for that. The Indian Prime Minister, Modi, he's now under pressure, of course, from back home. What is he going to have to maneuver? Being in the same room with Trump, and are we likely to see a change of heart on this issue?
I unfortunately don't think that the U.S. will take any accountability for this. They may not even acknowledge, the death of these sailors, because, in international humanitarian law, merchant ships are considered to be civilians. And so they needed to have been protected. They needed not to have been attacked. Because there needs to be a distinction between the combatants and the non-combatants. So the fact that the language even the U.S. has been using in describing this particular incident, saying that it disabled an oil tanker attempting to transport Iranian oil, that kind of language was meant to justify its position. And I think that despite the fact that they are major trading partners, the U.S. is unlikely. Like I said, Trump's administration has taken a very brutal and sort of a very hostile position, particularly when it needs it to defend its position. So I think that these sailors, unfortunately, will have to be collateral damage in maintaining the relations between India and the United States, particularly also in the wake that the new relations being reignited between Pakistan, which is a former which has severed relations with India. So I think that these sailors, unfortunately, will be collateral damage to this relationship, and the U.S., again, unlikely to take any accountability or responsibility, which is unfortunate for the Prime Minister of India, because it means that when he goes back home, it's going to be difficult to justify the maintenance of this relationship as well.
Yeah, and we'll wrap it up then with Haiti. A top defense official has been abducted there, and it's considered one of the most brazen kidnappings in years. Now, what is this telling us about the limits of international intervention here?
Sure. I think, it's the Haitian situation is very desperate at this point, because Mr. Boyard is the Inspector General of the police. So it's such a high-profile member of the security cluster in that region can be kidnapped. It tells us that there's a complete collapse. I think particularly of the state of Haiti and its institutions, and also highlights the limitations of international law, because states are meant to be sovereign and there needs not to be any intervention from other so there cannot be any interventions in the activities or actions of another state. And so I think when there's a complete collapse of governance like this, it shows that unfortunately, if there is no unified approach in resolving the issues, particularly from the US, in resolving the issues within Haiti, that the state collapse is going to begin to affect them, because they are very close in terms of proximity, regional proximity. And so I think that it shows us the limitations of international law, because it goes against the principle of interference in the affairs of the state.
Naledi, let me thank you for your time this morning on the Global Briefing and just giving us a roundup of some of those stories making international headlines. That's Naledi Modise, lecturer in political science and international relations at Northwest University. All right, in a moment, I'm going to be taking your calls. Remember, this is our Youth Day broadcast, a special broadcast that we have for you this morning. Hashtag 50 years later, simulcast with the voice of Wits, and you're going to be hearing more of those voices a little bit later on in the show. It is Youth Day, so we all know what the generation of 76 was fighting against, right? They were fighting against this education system that was really against them. They were fighting for equity within the education space. What is your generation fighting for? Do you know? What is your generation fighting for? And I wonder what becomes the barrier. If there's one thing that you could point to as a barrier, what would you say is the barrier standing between you and the life that you want? What is the barrier that stands between you and the life that democracy has promised? I'd really love for us to have that conversation as we get into the rest of the show. I'll take your calls on 086 000 2032. That's the number to dial, 086 000 2032. On the WhatsApp voice note line, 0614 104 107. That's 0614 104 107. In fact, I want to take some of your WhatsApp voice notes.
Let's have the conversation. WhatsApp voice notes on 0614 104 107.
Morning, the betrayal is too deep. The betrayal of the 1994 dream is too deep. 3.1 trillion gone down the drain due to corruption. Whoa, what a beloved country. Victims are told to rest in peace. What peace? How do you rest in peace crying, longing for that freedom? You cannot rest in peace. Survivors are told to move on. Move on, move on, move on. What is that? A serious betrayal. It's never late to rescue the Republic, a wonderful country, a country of resilience. May God help the country to survive the latest challenges.
Good morning, Sis Keith and your team. This is Sakile Ntsugwini from Wamhlabialingan. You know, Sis Keith, I believe that we owe the youth of 1976 a lot, because what is happening today is not what they fought for. The youth of today is involved in many social ills, such as taking drugs and drinking alcohol. Thank you.
Good morning, Kathy. It's Mr. Suleiman. Kathy, speaking about our Youth Day. How many years ago, 1976, so many hundreds of children were shot because they were looking for democracy and equality and the language which they fought for. Now, in schools today, what have we? We have children killing each other, teachers, principals being killed, no classrooms, lack of toilet facilities, How many years? What progress have we achieved? Nothing.
This is SAfm Sport with Zai Khan.
Khan, a very good morning to you. So we are embracing all of the youthful exuberance, and the question that we're asking to our listeners, I think it's one that you and I need to reflect on, but I'll give you a bit of time to think about it, right? If the generation of 76 fought for the right to fair education, what is our generation fighting for? What is your generation fighting for, Zai? So you've got to start preparing. Ne? Second hour we answer the question. Ne, Zai?
What am I? Well, yes, Kathy, at my stage in my life, I'm just fighting for a parking bay when I come into work in the morning. I mean, and maybe a good night's sleep and all of those things. But yeah, I just want to honestly say peace, quiet, and just Bafana. Getting into the knockout stages right now for me is going to be a big one. And have you had some thought on this?
Oh, Zai, your answer just took me out. Hey? Let's talk about Cape Verde. I'm done with you for this hour. We'll pick it up next hour.
All right, Kathy. Let's talk Cape Verde. What a moment for them. What a youthful Cape Verde side, impressing at this FIFA World Cup. They held the football giant Spain to a scoreless draw in Atlanta. The island nation defended bravely throughout to claim a famous point in Group H. In Group G, Mohamed Salah marked his birthday with a goal for Egypt, but Belgium had the final say as Romelu Lukaku came off the bench to rescue a 1-1 draw. Saudi Arabia also put on quite a display. They frustrated Uruguay in a 1-1 draw, and that was in the Miami Heat, while Iran and New Zealand played out to an entertaining 2-2 draw. And this is after the Ivory Coast, they had a late victory over Ecuador yesterday. We're seeing the African teams firmly in the spotlight as the tournament continues to deliver surprise results. Let's go to this surprise where the Comrades Marathon sensation Mbuti Molo says his podium finish in the 2026 Up Run has given him a chance to change his family's life. The 28-year-old elite running club athlete who entered the race mainly as a training run after failing to finish last year's down run stunned the field to claim third place on debut. Namolo earned more than 500,000 Rand in prize money and bonuses, including over 300,000 Rand for third place and 77,000 as the first KwaZulu-Natal runner home. With both his parents unemployed, he's saying the financial reward will make a profound difference. Now, his breakthrough performance has now established him as one of South Africa's most exciting and emerging ultra-distance talents, and he's definitely a man determined to uplift his family, and that's through running. Tennis action, the number second seed Felix Auger-Aliassime is safely through to the last 16 of the Halle Open. The Canadian overcame Portugal's Nuno Borges 6-3, 3-6, 6-3. He will next face Zhang Zhizhen, and that's in the next round. In another match, the USA's Francis Tiafoe producing one of the outstanding results. He upset the Italian number 6 seed Flavio Cobolli at 6-2, 7-6 to book his place in the last 16. And cricket news, England head coach Brendan McCullum saying he's worried about captain Ben Stokes after the nightclub incident that left him being dropped for the second test against New Zealand. Stokes and seamer Gus Atkinson were both left out of the squad of the match at the Kia Oval after breaching a midnight curfew following England's victory in the first test at Lord's. Now, McCullum spoke about the situation, acknowledging the seriousness. Atkinson has also been omitted as England look to move past the off-field disruption ahead of the second test. And finally, golf. Wyndham Clark returns to the US Open, determined to find redemption after last year's emotional outburst at Oakmont. The 2023 US Open champion banned from the host venue after smashing a locker in frustration when he missed the cut. He's since apologized to the club and agreed to pay the damages. with the Oakman board outlining conditions for his reinstatement. That's your sport on the national briefing. We'll be back with more at the top of the hour. I'm Sai Khan.
Africa in Focus with Advocate Sipho Mantula on SAfm.
The children got a letter from the master. It said no more Xhosa, Sotho, no more Zulu. Refusing to comply, they sent an answer. That's when the policeman came to the rescue. Well, the children were flying, bullets dying, all the mothers screaming and crying. The fathers were working in the city. The evening news brought out all the publicity, just a little atrocity deep in the city. Benigupina madoda, babetubula abantwana. Benigupina abantwana, babejikijela ezizimbokodo. Benigupina. There was a full moon on the golden city. Knocking at the door was the man without pity, accusing everyone of conspiracy, tightening the curfew, charging people with walking. The border is where he was waiting, waiting for the children, frightened and running. A handful got away, but all the others are in the jail without any publicity, just a little atrocity deep in the city. Benigupina madoda, babetubula abantwana. Benigupina abantwana, xa bejikijela ezizimbokodo. Benigupina. Soweto blues, Soweto blues, Soweto blues, Soweto blues, Soweto blues, without any publicity. Soweto blues, they are finishing our name. Soweto
What would the capturing of our history be without the likes of Mam Miriam Makeba? A refreshing morning to you, Advocate Mantula. You specifically asked to have that song as you started off your session this morning.
Jumbo Africa, Casey, and to the listeners as well as our youthful radio station from across Auckland Park, the Voice of Vets. Very important to play Miriam Makeba on this day, being the Soweto Uprising Day, the Youth Day, the day of an African child. I will touch on it later, Sis Casey, but what is important is that as we look at this song, it was composed in Ghana in 1977, written by Hugh Masekela and Stanley Ted Khoza, as well as Miriam Makeba. And now when you look at this song and the theme of this year, being reset at 50, the future calls, with the slogan of national commitment to the future. for freedom lives in every generation. I think your leading question that you have asked all of us, Katie, this morning, is what are we doing as the present generation? If the generation of 76 fought to the right to learn and to challenge the apartheid system, what is the generation of 2026 doing? I think beyond sloganeering and speechifying, what we are still struggling with is this concept of public memory and this issue of looking back, moving forward, and at the same time having not the incompetence only in our leadership circle, but we are having young people who are caught up in the social media spaces, young people who are the Generation Z and Y, and they tend not to look back at where they have been and where they are and where they are going. So that's why I thought, let's look at that this morning as we are observing Soweto Day or the Youth Day. I know that also, as you said, there are many celebrations, but Soweto, it will be hectic today. And I hope we won't see only people wearing uniforms and drinking alcohol. I think we must have a deep reflection of what is happening currently in the country, in the continent, and globally. And hence we have a march coming from the corner of Mohammed Vilagasi Street to say, let us finish what we have started in 1976. The people will be going to the graves of Hector Peterson, Hudson Ndlovu. There are many opportunities for young people that they will be raised today. There will be that issue of social media being buzzed with images, nostalgia, man, that you will always see on 76 June 16. But people like Seth Mazibuko will be leading some of these events. They have lamented already what has happened in 1976, and they are having many campaigns. Hence, I thought, let our first story just focus on Soweto Day.
All right. Then let's move on to Israel, the Somaliland president visiting Jerusalem.
Another diplomatic headache where you have a Somaliland president in defiance of Somalia, Mogadishu, visiting Israel. As you will recall that Israel in December 2025 recognized the state of Somaliland. Now this visit, others are saying, is a 5-day visit by the president of Somaliland to engage on political, economic and security issues, setting up an embassy. But I don't know whether does he see the signs. There's a conflict in the Middle East. There's a conflict in the Persian Gulf. There's a crisis between Somaliland and Somalia. But here you have a president stepping to Jerusalem and to Tel Aviv to engage with the Israeli government.
And then moving on to Sudan, in Khartoum, we're seeing drone strikes.
We have not been following Khartoum a lot in Sudan, and I think the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, Volker Turk, saying that for the past 5 months, there have more than 1,000 civilians who have lost their lives. The drones that are being used, I'll always call it that the war of the 21st century has moved from physical war, it has gone to a drone space now. And that's where you see now in Sudan, just between January and May, you have 1,000 people who have lost their lives by the drone strikes. And that shows you 2023, the war erupts in Sudan. We had other South Africans who were trapped there, by the way. So we need to understand how do we locate the war of Sudan with the current crisis. But the UN lamenting, giving us statistics that are very sad, to say more than 2,600 people have lost their lives. And many people have lost their lives since the war in Sudan since 2023.
All right, and then very quickly, Advocate Mantula, Historical Archive, 16 June 1991.
In our historical archive, let me start with CHC Mashinini before we conclude this, just to link the continent, Guinea-Conakry, just link many places where the youth of June 16 disappeared to since 1976.
The black student in South Africa is being fed the type of education that will domesticate him to become a better tool for the white man when he joins the working community. School libraries, school books, they've got nothing to do with civics or anything that is affiliated in any manner to politics. What happens is we are fed a lot of fiction stories. I could quote so many authors in fictitious writers that you would be surprised where I get them. Even our libraries are ill-equipped. You don't get much works on, say, democracy, communism, fascism, capitalism, and all that. We only know these things as concepts and something not within our world.
Casey, 1991, the then OAU, now the African Union, commemorated June 16 as the Day of an African Child to honor those who led their lives. Here is questioning the current curriculum. The youth of 2015, the fees must fall, raised it from different universities. And that's why it is important today that when I look at our theme, be it diluted, the theme for the continent is also focusing on access to water, sanitation of the African child. And that's what we are facing now globally. The energy crisis, the water crisis, the conflict crisis are facing the youth. Hence I said, Soweto Day is not only celebrated in South Africa, it's celebrated across the African continent. Asante sana Sisketi, Eswati leading the true conversation, SAfm observing the Soweto Uprising Day.
If you're active on social media and love SAfm, we hope you'll take a moment to like or follow our SAfm page on Facebook and Twitter. These are the best places to find all the guest information, conversations, and stories you love from your favorite presenters, along with regular updates from SABC News. And don't forget, you can send your questions to feedback@safm.co.za. SAfm, leading the conversation. 50 years ago, young South Africans changed the course of history. Today, a new generation asks a different question. What have we inherited and what must we build next? This Youth Day, SAfm joins forces with South Africa's leading campus radio stations for a series of powerful national simulcasts. The National Briefing and Voice of Vets, exploring education, employment, and economic opportunity. The Daily Discourse and Northwest University FM, examining democracy, leadership, and active citizenship. The Full Circle and Radio Turf, reflecting on identity, culture, and social cohesion. Students, communities, leaders, and listeners. One country, one conversation. 50 years after June 16. Join SAfm and Campus Radio as we explore where South Africa has come from, where we are, and where we need to go. Youth Day 2026, 50 years later, only on SAfm. SAfm, South Africa's national meeting place, and still leading the conversations that move us. Kathy Mutlatlana is streaming live now on Facebook, YouTube, and X at SAfm Radio.
All right, you're listening to the National Briefing. It's 6:50 as we commemorate Youth Day, the youth of 1976, when thousands of young people, of course, rose up against Bantu education in this country, against Afrikaans as a language, as a medium of instruction in schools, and demanded better. And you heard how clearly articulated it was by Tsitsi Mashinini, the late Tsitsi Mashinini, in that clip that Advocate Mandula played a little earlier. So let's get into the story now as we commemorate Youth Day. There's a landmark development that is set to reshape the future of Vilakazi Street. Now, you know this future historically very important. I don't know if there's any other street in the world that has housed two Nobel Peace Prize laureates, and that is Nelson Mandela and Desmond Tutu. Well, the street will now see an introduction of Merabe, which is a mixed-use cultural and lifestyle destination. Thabang Sithole is managing director of Merabe. He joins us now. Thabang, good morning to you. Thank you for your time. So I must say, as I was reading about the developments that await Vilakazi Street, I was both excited but also anxious. It's a bit oxymoronic, right? Because I thought, well, this is great. But then I also thought, I know what developments do to a place. Sometimes it loses its essence. So tell us about this development that you're embarking on in Vilakazi Street.
Good morning, Kathy. Good morning to the listeners. Embarking on a game-changing development on Vilakazi Street, the first of its kind. Vilakazi has been a tourist attraction for both locals and international tourists, but there hasn't been a development of this kind that is providing accommodation at scale, that is providing economic opportunities for small entrepreneurs and creatives, because as it is, most businesses are owner occupied. So what my intention is to develop a space where other people can have a space to trade on Vilakazi that also pays homage to urban culture, to the history of the street, and the development is meant to serve the community, because it will have the shops, it will have restaurants, it will have accommodation. We also just secured planning rights to have our own museum on the site. We'll have parking as well within the development, and it's meant to serve the community more than anything and to transform the township, because we also deserve good development in the township, as opposed to people having to drive out, and also Vilakazi only being known for the few spots it has. So we're bringing in a mix of uses within one space to create that crucible urban environment that both locals and international tourists can feel at home in.
In fact, Tabang, you bring me to my next point that you would, of course, also be mindful of the tourist attraction that Vilakazi Street has become. So how much of what is going to be built is going to be really geared and tailored for the international market?
Yeah, so a significant portion is going to be geared towards the international market, but providing local opportunities for small businesses to tap into that market that comes into Vilakazi. So buses come in every day and people leave. The rent doesn't circulate that much because they're not staying in the space. They come in for day tours and they leave. So we want them to stay longer. We want them to spend their money in the precinct, and we want small businesses to benefit out of it. And also, we will have accommodation, serviced apartments, which locals can also rent in that space, and also units that are reserved for tourists. So let me rephrase, it's not too geared for tourists. It's a community space which tourists can also come into and experience the local culture.
All right.
And yeah.
Tabang Sitole, Managing Director of Merabi. So that's just what lies in store for Vilakazi Street.
SAfm. Prime time all day long.
Well, the South African Human Rights Commission is heading to the Johannesburg High Court this week. It's over comments made by media personality Ngizwe Mgunu about members of the LGBTQIA plus community. The Commission and civil society argue that his remarks amount to hate speech. Professor Tsepo Madlingozi is a commissioner of the Human Rights Commission, joins us this morning. Prof. Madlingozi, good morning for your time. So what exactly did Ngizwe Mgunu say that is now landing him in court?
Good morning, Kathy, and good morning to your listeners. Well, this matter relates to videos that Mr. Mgunu circulated last year in September and October. It had to do with a ceremony that a same-sex couple participated in. In those videos, Mr. Mgunu denounced same-sex marriages and went further to say that queer people should leave South Africa. Queer people are defiling the culture, and that must be chased and bent. And in other videos, intimated that queer people are animals. Now, of course, such comments are not protected by Section 16 of the Constitution, the right to freedom of expression. In fact, in our view, they constitute hate speech, they constitute harassment.
Is taking this matter to court the first point of call? Have you tried to reach out to Mr. Mchunu to understand why he was making those statements? Was there any other form of mediation process that was undertaken?
Yes, as a commission, that's what we always prefer, because our work is not simply to denounce and to condemn people. Our work is to promote human rights. It is to educate people about a culture of human rights. So indeed, last year in October and November, we reached out to the respondent, trying to get him to come to us and mediate, to explain himself, and to issue an unconditional apology. Those overtures went unanswered. We followed up again this year, and we did not get any joy. So we did not have any choice but to go to court. We'll send a letter of demand where we said retract the statement, apologize, take down the videos, and still we did not get any joy. So using our mandate and power, we had no choice but to go to court, because Kathy, words lead to consequences. You will know that in South Africa, queer people have been subjected not only to discrimination. We have a lot of incidents of lesbian rape, where lesbians have been raped, where people have been killed. Therefore, as South Africa, we've made a commitment to prohibit hate speech.
There'll be some who are watching these developments and will undoubtedly link it to the protest that we have seen against undocumented migrants, and who could well say that this is an attempt by the Human Rights Commission to silence somebody like Ngizwe Mchunu, who's been at the front of some of these protests. We've seen the petition also calling for the Human Rights Commission to be dissolved from the very same groups.
Yes, that would be a very unfortunate connection. This matter has nothing to do with migrants. It has nothing to do with the marches that we've seen. It has to do with a very vulnerable community, a queer community that is being told that they must be chased out of South Africa, that they are filth, and that they must be bent down, that must be banned. So it has nothing to do with what we are seeing now. The commission has been very clear that peaceful protest is allowed, that anyone should raise grievances relating to undocumented migrants, relating to criminality, related to the pressure on the public health system. So we've been very clear in encouraging that. What is not allowed is for hate speech to be propagated. What is not allowed is harassment to be spread. So there's no connection between the two. And as far as the calls to dissolve the commission, we've been very clear in answering those calls to say, just go to our website, you will see the work that we are doing for South Africans.
Professor Tsepo Madlingozi will leave it there, Commissioner at the South African Human Rights Commission. It's 7 o'clock, time for your latest news update. Anne Musa is standing by. Anne, good morning.
Thanks, Kathy. In our top stories, Mashinini's family demands free decolonized education, and Starmer vows new sanctions on Russia. Good morning. The family of the June 16 Soweto uprising mastermind T.H.C. Mashinini has spoken out on the golden anniversary of the event. It says without a free and decolonized education, the sacrifices of the generation of that event remain in vain. The historic event expedited the pace of the liberation struggle, which changed South Africa's political trajectory. Mashinini's brother, Dichaba, says that if he were to write a letter to the departed 1976 generation, this is what he would say.
Vugani, my daughter. We are living in a dungeon, economically, socially, and otherwise. What you died for has not been achieved. We are still struggling. Very early in our liberation, already there was a song, not yet Uhuru. We are still in that situation. So I'll tell them, you made a sacrifice, you made a contribution, well done, but we've only moved an inch. We have not really achieved what we were fighting for. I don't think learning and teaching or even the curriculum is anything near where these guys would have advocated. If, for instance, you was to say Kgotso Seatlholo must be Minister of Education, I think we would be in a better place.
Meanwhile, President Cyril Ramaphosa will lead the National Youth Day commemoration and deliver the keynote address in Soweto this morning. The uprising happened when police responded to the student-led protest against the apartheid government's Education Act, killing hundreds of young people. It's considered a turning point in South Africa's liberation struggle. Ramaphosa is expected to reaffirm government's commitment to tackle challenges young people are facing, including unemployment. Ntebo Mukobo reports.
This year's National Youth Day marks the 50th anniversary of the 1976 Youth Uprising, one of the defining moments in South Africa's liberation struggle and democratic journey. The President's address will look at the progress made over the past 5 decades and the country's responsibility to create opportunities for young people, as presidential spokesperson Vincent Magwenya explains.
The 50th anniversary provides an opportunity to reaffirm the country's commitment to building a future in which young people are empowered to realize their full potential.
The event will bring together youth formations, students and veterans of the liberation struggle, among others.
The disappearance of a 19-year-old man from Everton in the Vaal has received the attention of the Deputy President, Paul Mashatile. The Commission for the Promotion and Protection of the Rights of Cultural, Religious and Linguistic Communities says it's engaging stakeholders in its investigation of Ntando Ngoza's disappearance. He disappeared last year on the 19th of December after travelling to an initiation school in the area to assist with cultural and educational activities. Community activist Thomas Maseko.
We warmly welcome the intervention of His Excellency, the Deputy President of the country. This is a clear indication that the case is receiving attention at the highest level of government. We also welcome the CRL Commission's confirmation that a formal investigation is underway and that its senior leadership is now directly involved in this matter.
Tributes are pouring in from the music fraternity in South Africa and beyond for jazz pianist and composer Abdullah Ibrahim. He died in the south of Munich in Germany yesterday at the age of 91. Ibrahim, who was affectionately known as Dollar Brand, is known for his outstanding piano skills. He was born in Cape Town on the 9th of October 1934. The Free State Music Association says South Africa has lost an iconic jazz musician. Ayanda Rora is the association's chairperson.
We are really saddened by his passing, Mr. Abdullah Ibrahim. May his soul rest in the creative power. He has played his role in the music industry. He has laid the foundation and will take the baton and continue with the war of the creative sector and spreading the love of music. Rest in peace, sir. The baobab tree has fallen.
And finally, Britain's Prime Minister Keir Starmer says the UK will supply enriched uranium to Ukraine for its nuclear power stations and impose new sanctions on Russia. He's expected to make the formal announcement at the G7 summit in France today. The BBC's Chris Mason reports.
Details of many of the new sanctions are expected later, but one focus will be ships moving sanctioned Russian liquefied natural gas. The Prime Minister said choking off the revenues that fuel Putin's war, as he put it, was essential, as he also set out plans to support Ukraine's energy supplies. The UK is to provide £210 million of support over the next 2 years to Ukraine's nuclear power plants, providing them with enriched uranium.
Recapping the top story, the family of the June 16 Soweto uprising mastermind, Tsietsi Mashinini, has spoken out on the golden anniversary of the event. It says without a free and decolonized education, the sacrifices of the generation of that event remain in vain. For SAfm News, I am Anne Musa.
It's a very good morning to you. In your SAfm sports headline, the focus is turning to Bafana Bafana as they get ready for their next match against the Czech Republic. And we also bring you news from the nice action with Belgium and Egypt being held, while we also have news of the drama and the goals and the draw. All this and more at around 7:30.
The National Briefing on SAfm. Clarity, context, and conversation. This is where the day begins with Kathy Mutlatlana on the National Briefing.
It's 7:07. You're listening to the National Briefing. It is Youth Day, marking 50 years since the generation of 76 took a stand against Bantu education, took a stand against Afrikaans as a medium of instruction, took a stand against the apartheid government. Well, today we're doing a special broadcast, a Youth Day simulcast with Voice of Wits right here on the National Briefing. You're going to be hearing from Valerie and Greg later on in the show. Coming up in this hour, it's the conversation that has been dominating, many conversations. In fact, it's the issue that has been dominating conversations across the country, and it's around migration. We're going to be in conversation with the Interministerial Committee. This is on the country's migration plan. The Deputy Minister for Police will join us to unpack those measures for policing that are going to be put in place. And then we also speak to civil society who maintain that anger is being directed at the wrong people where these protests are concerned. We'll, of course, also bring you our reality check this morning. We'll be joined by Dr. Stephen Zwane, who is our contributor for the week, and he takes the youth question head on. The youth of 76 and the youth of 26, different battles but the same demand for dignity. Of course, as the show unfolds, we'd love to hear from you. The numbers to dial this morning: 086 000 2032. That's 086 000 2032. On the WhatsApp voice note line, 0614 104 107. That's 0614 104 107. And the question I've asked is, 50 years after 76, what is your generation fighting for? What is your generation fighting for? And if you're under 30, what's the one barrier that stands between you and the life that you want? What is the one thing that, if given the opportunity, you could move aside? If you could move one thing, what would that thing be that would enable you to live the full promise of what this democracy is supposed to be? We can have that conversation on the open line or on the WhatsApp voice note line through your voice notes and text messages. So all of that coming up in the next hour.
We asked rugby legend Francois Steyn what he thinks of the all-new Toyota BZ4X. France, would you say the BZ4X is a rugged all-wheel drive SUV?
Yeah.
Cool. Was the acceleration and handling good?
Yeah.
All right. So you think the BZ4X can handle South Africa?
Wat dink jy?
Well, there you have it. The all-new Toyota BZ4X, an all-wheel drive battery electric SUV made to handle South Africa. The BZ4X. It just got real.
Sanboran, this is Shugela from Amalanga Wafani.
Hi, my name is Sipho Mbele, playing the role of Masangu on Amalanga Wafani.
Sanbonani. Hello, my name is Zazi Kunene, and I play Untando on the new season of Amalanga Awafani. Catch Amalanga Awafani on SABC 1.
Do yourself a favor, tune in
every weekday at 6:30 p.m. only on SABC 1.
Babe, I'm getting extra cash from my insurance. I was thinking romantic getaway or a treat for the kids.
You're getting money from your insurer?
Yes, my cash back from my way. I'll get back 10% of my monthly premiums for staying claim-free for 2 years. I'm getting 5,680 Rand.
Now that's real cash.
Real people, real cars, real rewards. For a quote, visit myway.co.za. My cashback is a feature on qualifying products paid after 2 claim-free years and all premiums paid. Premiums are risk profile dependent. MyWay is a licensed non-life insurer and FSP. T's and C's apply. MyWay. Live your way.
This is Kathy Mutlatlana on the National Briefing.
Well, it's 12 after 7 o'clock. Let's get straight into our big story then. The government has rolled out a new migration plan through its interministerial committee. Within it, tighter borders, harder enforcement, and of course a big number, more than 40,000 undocumented people arrested since January. That's since January 2026. And just in the past month alone, 7,000 people have been taken behind bars for not having the proper documentation on them. Joining us is the Deputy Minister of Police, Dr. Poli Bushelo. Dr. Bushelo, good morning to you. Thank you for your time this morning. So 40,000 arrests that have taken place in the last 6 months, that in and of itself is in many ways a sign of how broken the system is and just how many people are in the country on an undocumented basis.
Good morning, Kathy, and good morning to your listeners. I don't think we can say the broken, but it's a fact that many people are in South Africa. Some are undocumented, others are illegal also in our country. And the number also shows that there are a lot. It's not only the 40,000. Remember, you're only talking from January. We've been doing this every other Monday. We had our Chanela, where most of our illegal people have been arrested. So, yes, there's a lot of them, but it's not that we just now realized it now.
So part of the reason why I'm saying the broken system is because that is the system that has enabled them to be in the country on an undocumented basis for as long as they have been. And as you are saying, there's still many more that are unaccounted for.
Yes, I think that is the situation. But remember, they are coming here not necessarily legally. They come here, if you have gone to Beitbridge, they even cross rivers and then also use other means to come in. But also there are others who came legally with a passport, with a visa of about 3 months, and they never went back. So there are many reasons why some are here. Some come here because they came to study. After studying they're supposed to study for 5 years, they never went back. So others are here, of course, legally, and they are doing illegal work and have skills that are really needed in our country. So it's a different category. Others are real refugees who have run away from war and other hardship from their own country. And in terms of the UN conventions, we should be able to assist them.
There's no question, Minister, about the fact that we are seeing intensified efforts from government in cracking down on undocumented migrants. At the same time, it comes as there have been increasing protests, right, led by some civil movements, civic organizations in the country. How do you ensure that the work that you are doing is not feeding into the general anti-migrant sentiment that we have seen in the country?
That's why we from time to time we are going to come to the nation and report the progress about this issue, like we did the last Sunday, because yes, we don't want people who go around beating people, spraying people in the faces, and also the same people, they don't know what a valid document look like. So that's why we said when in our statement, everything must be done within the law. If people want to march because they don't want undocumented or illegal foreigners, which is a valid reason, they don't have to really beat up people and do things that they're not supposed to do, steal things that from the very same people. So in terms of the law, we are going to intensify law. We don't want lawlessness in our country as much as they could have not have any other thing, but they are still human beings, and we need to treat them with ubuntu.
Would you say, Minister, that government is still very much on the back foot when it comes to this particular matter? And again, there is a June 30th deadline that is looming. Nobody yet fully knows what the fullness of that deadline means. But certainly, if the protests we have seen in previous months are anything to go by, it's the threat of not only a national shutdown, but what else could be part of it. Are you on the back foot here that you're now having to chase that narrative and ensure that there isn't disaster come the 30th of June?
Not necessarily. As I'm saying to you, Kathy, for sure you would know. We've always had operational Chanela every other week, and then every Monday we then bring up the numbers and see what is going on in terms of all the types of crime, not necessarily even illegal documents or what. It's just that we are going to elections and then people will want to take advantage and agitate people. So we are not on the back foot. We have been doing this. We can give you even the figures of what we have been doing. You remember Stilfontein in the northwest, where from the illegal mine we took out 1,924 people, and out of that only 21 were South African. The rest were illegal and undocumented foreigners. And then we're able to also take around 80 corpses. Up to now, they have not been claimed. So it seems their relatives or what don't maybe even know they've passed on. So we've always been on this issue. It's just that there are some hardship in terms of our neighbors, poverty, and others the same as ours. Our economy is not growing, so of course it will attract many people from outside. In terms of the date of the 30, I don't know whose date is that one, honestly, because I don't know what will happen on that day. We don't have that date. For us, it's any other day doing our work with the Border Management Authority, the National Joint, the interministerial as we do, try to assist as much as we could. And many countries, I'm happy they are coming along and trying to help their citizens. We have seen the Ghana government coming up and taking their people. The Nigerians also are taking up their people, and also the Malawians, where we are able to help, like in Malawi, the Malawians, we help them with about 10 buses. So the government from these people are also coming on. But to say the 30th and what, I don't even know who actually came with the 30th and what is going to happen. But whatever happens.
So, Minister, I'm sure you're aware of the threats of a national shutdown come the 30th of June, that undocumented migrants have been given that deadline to move or else ... What we also know is that in KZN, they've been really consolidated efforts to try and understand what is behind this threat. The Human Rights Commission there has warned that we could well see scenes similar to what we did during the July 21 unrest. They've not only taken their report to the KZN government, they've also given it to Nat Joins. So I'm surprised that you say you don't know anything about it, because you would fall under the Nat Joins structure. So you would be well aware of what that report from the Human Rights Commission has said.
No, I know, and we are ready as the Net Joint. I'm saying the date of the 30. I don't know who have put that date on. In terms of the Net Joint and the JCPS, we are always ready to make sure that we protect everybody in our country. That is our responsibility in terms of the Constitution, section number 205. Everybody must be protected and feel protected. So we always do that. Yes, we have heightened security because of this date, but we don't know who said on this day we're going to take Mang out, where and whatever. But in terms of our own intelligence, we are prepared for whatever might happen on that day.
We're going to have to leave it there. Dr. Poli Bushelo, the Deputy Minister of Police.
Topco Media presents the 25th Annual Top Empowerment Conference in partnership with Nedbank, taking place on the 17th and 18th of June at the Sandton Convention Center. This is the year that South Africa's empowerment rules get rewritten, with both the Minister of Trade and Industry and the Minister of Finance and 800 of the leaders shaping what comes next. To secure your seat, head to Quicket, search Top Empowerment, and use the code SABC for 20% off. Book today before the codes change without you.
Catch Top Billing this Youth Day Tuesday evening at 7 as vlogger Snigiwe Sneem Mhlongo finds her mom the best travel companion. Designer Tina Ngogolo marries Xhosa tradition with modern styling. And Geordie and Debbie Osler plant a forest, then build themselves a treehouse of a home. That's Top Billing this Tuesday at 7. Repeat Sunday at 1 on S3 and Tuesday at 9:30 p.m. on SABC1.
I'm a millionaire, and yes, I am a millionaire. And then you'd be on the couch with your 6 numbers. But 7 is for heaven, or yes. But 4 is for the door, or yes. But 38 is never too late, or yes. Well, the Lotto Live draws are back. Every Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday. Catch the live draw at 9 p.m. The National Lottery. More plays, more chances, more millions. Players must be 18 years or older. Play responsibly. The National Lottery is officially operated by SAfm.
SAfm. Prime time all day long.
You're listening to the National Briefing 23 after 7. So there are also civil society groups who have been doing their own work. And this time, though, speaking against what they describe as xenophobia, Afrophobia, and all sorts of other ills that they have picked up in the country. They held a public online mass meeting on the 9th of June, also speaking against right-wing reaction and organized hate in the country. Mbongiseni Sibiya is a member of Workers' and Socialist Party, as well as the Mining Affected Communities United in Action. Mbongiseni, good morning to you. Thanks for your time this morning.
Good morning, listeners. And thank you for having me in your show today. As you just introduced me, I can't go back, but Bongiseni from Ekurhuleni, branch coordinator of Makua and a member of the Workers' and Socialist Party.
So you've heard the Deputy Minister then talk about this June 30, and she says that she's not sure where this date comes from, or even what the threat around June 30 is. You as civil society, you've been very active in mobilizing around June 30. What is your expectation of what might happen?
Yes, thank you again for this opportunity. Yes, we are seeing this that there are organizations, xenophobic parties organizing and specifically targeting the threats of coordinated vigilante violence aimed at migrants leading up to the June 30th. So our fundamental purpose for organizing for this march is what we want to achieve is to actually confront the reject of scapegoating, is to actively oppose the xenophobic racism and tribalism that is happening, that we are actually seeing, and actually We want to build practical solidarity from below, to establish local which is to establish local structures of solidarity, safety, and collective action across workshop campuses, with faith formations and informal settlements to protect the vulnerable communities, and actually to oppose the methods that we are seeing happening, and to actually mobilize disciplined, peaceful, and democratic communities forces to encounter the facial intimidation and attempts to block people from actually saying that migrants should leave the country, and actually to conduct political education nationwide to actually initiate throughout the month of June and beyond to educate our community that about the xenophobic narratives that we are seeing, and to demand like structural solutions to shift the public's focus in towards fighting for real solutions to the crisis.
So Mbongiseni, speak to me very practically. How are you planning on going about doing this? I mean, are the protests that you are planning protests then to counter what March and others have been doing?
Actually our main purpose, yes, was actually to create marches, but we are actually not only doing a march for the 30th. Today we are looking at actions also in solidarity in endorsing what our mission and purpose of the campaign. Throughout, we are having an action in and around Soweto today in Freedom Park, and we will be having such actions throughout the month of June, demonstrating and as I've said, educating our fellow communities and saying that opposing the vigilante threats that are happening.
Okay, all right, Mbongiseni. Mbongiseni Sibia, we're going to leave it there. He is with the mining affected communities United in Action Macau, and a member of the Workers' and Socialist Party. So that's where you have it. Then let me bring in some of the voice notes you've been sending on some of these matters.
Let's have the conversation. WhatsApp voice notes on 0614 104 107.
Morning, Kathy. Kathy, the Deputy Minister of Police comes there and says they are doing their job. Her own members are taking bribe. Her own members are taking bribes. There was a viral video whereby a constable took 2,000 and she apologized. They are not doing their job. That is why we've got so many illegal immigrants, anonymous.
Hey, she's kid. Useless deputy police minister as usual. She can't even admit the brokenness of the system. Blah, 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 blah. These guys are panicking for the votes only because they benefit from these other countries, these northern countries in our African continent. They benefit. Soga.
This is SAfm Sport with Zai Khan.
A very good morning to you again, Zai Khan. So Coach Hugo Bruce, he's set to stick with the five-man defense as Bafana prepare for the Czech Republic showdown.
Kathy, Czech Republic are bringing the giants in the box. And what is Hugo Broos doing? He's bringing extra security guards. So we're going to have to wait and see how this pans out. But Bafana coach appears set to resist calls for a tactical rethink ahead of the crucial FIFA World Cup Group A encounter. And that's Thursday against the Czech Republic. Following a 2-0 defeat to Mexico, Coach Bruges came under fire for abandoning South Africa's traditional 4-3-3 formation in favor of a more cautious 5-3-2 system. However, the Czech Republic poses a significant threat from set pieces and aerial balls into the box. The Belgian tactician is expected to retain the back five, prioritizing defensive organization and physical presence. In the meantime, Bafana, as they finalize their preparations, we've got a wonderful man in that he will be looking forward to attacking. That's Tapelo Maseko, the Cyprus-based player, has identified intensity as the area of focus. And one thing that Bafana have shown under Coach Bruges, he says, is that they can bounce back when they've got their backs against the wall. And most of the players who have engineered that are still on the team. And good news for Bafana is that the weather temperature in Atlanta for the next few days are not that high, with some rain expected. And with that American heat not guaranteed, this could work in Bafana's favor. From there, we go to other news, and you've also seen the action that happened last night where you had Cape Verde who went on to hold the Spanish team, and that was to a 0-0 draw. Interestingly enough, very impressive was Cape Verde holding the football giants. In Group G, Mo Salah marked his birthday with a goal for Egypt, but Belgium had the final say as Romelu Lukaku came off the bench and it all ended 1-1. Saudi Arabia, they frustrated Uruguay in a 1-1 draw in Miami, while Iran and New Zealand played out to an entertaining 2-2 draw. So there's plenty of excitement when it comes to this World Cup, and you can look forward to other drama happening as well. Video assistant referee Sean Evans has been cleared by FIFA after an investigation into a hand gesture he made during Germany's 7-1 win over Curacao. Evans was seen forming an upside-down OK sign when cameras cut to the VAR hub in Dallas, a gesture that can carry both harmless and extremist interpretations. FIFA said it found no evidence of breaches of its disciplinary code. Evans insists the move was an involuntary subconscious twitch. Now, he does remain available for selection, and that's for the rest of the tournament. Netball news, the Free State Crinums completed a perfect Telkom Netball League campaign. They beat the Golden Fireballs 46-32 in Pretoria to claim their 5th Division 1 title. We also saw the South African men's national team impressing, beating Eswatini 53-43, and that was a friendly that took place at the Kwandile Sitole. We had that centre being named player of the match. On to rugby news, the Springbok assistant coach Dion David says it would be dangerous for South Africa to lean into the favourites tag ahead of Saturday's clash with the Barbarians in Gqeberha. Despite the Barbars' limited preparation time, Davids believes their mix of world-class talent, experience as well as attacking flair makes them a genuine threat. Now, the Boks have been based in Johannesburg to maintain continuity from their earlier training camps before travelling to the Eastern Cape later this week. That's your sport on the National Briefing. Look out around 8:30. There'll be a brand new voice on sport. Looking forward to some youthful exuberance. I'll catch you then. Ciao for now.
Make sure you don't miss out as the Thabo Mbeki Foundation, in collaboration with Classics on Turf, pay tribute to the life and music of Tio Soga in a concert led by Mandisi Yankees with the Renaissance Singers, the Chamber Orchestra of Johannesburg, conducted by Kutlwano Masote. The concert takes place on Saturday, the 20th of June, 7 p.m. at the Wits Great Hall. Tickets are available from web tickets at 300 Rand each. Honoring the legacy of Tio Soga, made possible by Webhold and supported by SAfm.
This Tuesday, you have a chance to win over 160 million Rand in total Powerball estimated jackpot. Catch the live draw this Tuesday at 9 p.m. on SABC2. You could become SA's next multi-millionaire. Yes, you. The National Lottery. More plays, more chances, more millions. Players must be 18 years or older. Play responsibly. The National Lottery is officially operated by Sizekaya.
Call SAfm now on 086 000 2032.
It's 7:36. You're still listening to the national briefing on this Youth Day, 50 years of commemorating the uprising of the youth of 1976. Let me go to the phone lines. I'll start off in Benoni. Anonymous, good morning.
Good morning, SAfm. SAfm, thanks for taking my call. You've made my freedom. I would like to speak about the youth of then and youth of today. The youth of then, thanks for letting us free. We are free today. It's not bad. It's not all bad. However, the youth of today, what they must fight for, according to me, they must fight for. There's a few things that I will mention. They must fight for corruption. They must fight for crime. They must fight for tenders, and they must fight for drugs. On these drugs, I'd like to state so much on the drug dealers, more especially our African brothers, the Nigerians. The manner in which they are selling drugs in this country, it's uncalled for, and they don't respect the law of this country. On the tender system, the tender must be scrapped. Tender must be scrapped because the tender is just the combination of corruption and the crime at the same time.
So Anonymous, I hear your reflections on what you think young people today, right, should be fighting against. But I asked, what is your generation? So I want you to speak for your generation. What is your generation fighting for, Anonymous? What are you fighting for?
I'm fighting for those things as well. The ones that I've mentioned as Katie.
Okay.
The one that more especially on my side, more especially the most fundamental thing that is affecting us, our daily lives in this country, it's a corruption and tenders.
Okay.
Those things must be scrapped because if you could see now at the Madanga Commission, most of the things that have been mentioned is because of the tenders. Because if you don't scrap the tenders, we'll have more commission in future. Maybe we'll have a Mushatlana commission in future as well. So
all right. All right, Anonymous. Thanks for that. Temba in Limpopo, good morning.
Katie, good morning.
Yes, sir.
Good morning, Katie, and the listeners at home.
Yes, you're live on the radio.
Okay, thank you, Katie. Katie, like you're asking what the youth should be focusing on, the youth of today. It's unfortunate that they were supposed to be celebrating that they are working. The youth of today were supposed to be celebrating that they've got their own houses, they are having good jobs, they are driving cars, they are not smoking nyaupes and everything. But the opposite is happening. And today they are being told to go to Soweto and listen to some celebration speech by the president. The same president who's keeping money under the mattress, you see. So really, if I were to advise youth today, I would tell them they must boycott that June 16 in Soweto because it's not going to help them with anything. In fact, the youth that are in Limpopo province, I'll advise them to go and celebrate the real Youth Day, or rather youth celebration in Kowankowa there by Tsamin, because that's a real youth celebration that will be happening today, not the one in Soweto.
What is happening in Zanin?
It's a celebration of youth, the real celebration.
Okay, all right. Well, I don't have much details about it, but I think, Temba, you've made the point. Again, there's so much advice giving. Can every generation speak for themselves? The young people also come on and they'll speak for themselves. So the next round of callers we take, I don't want advice, the youth must, speak for your generation. What is your generation still fighting for? What is it that you are still wanting to see progress on? So that we can understand. Remember, we're having different experiences as generations post 1994. We've been let down by, some of the promises that democracy promised, right? The dividends of democracy, as it were. But they don't all look the same way for every generation. And that's why I want us to have an intergenerational conversation. So yes, the advice, I'm not saying that advice is not good, it's good. Advise the young people, but they'll speak for themselves. You speak to me about what is the struggle of your generation today, 50 years post 76, that you thought you wouldn't have to talk about, that you thought you would long have moved on from. All right, so that's part of the conversation I would like us to have as the rest of the show continues to unfold.
50 years later, Youth Month, The Voices.
What's the one thing that gives you hope about the youth in South Africa?
The current one that we have are ones who are energetic, optimistic, who are eagerly ready to go for what they want, what they wish to be, who challenges the status quo in terms of thinking and approach, and which becomes exciting. For me, they resonate with the generation of the 1976, but they have two different approaches. That one was more militant and fighting for their rights. These ones are just changing the scenario and the status quo of how they want the country to be and what it is perceived to be.
Komotso Anthea Ramolobank, Portfolio Committee Chairperson on Correctional Services.
From the class of 1976 to the generation of TikTok, AI, and unemployment, the conversation continues on SAfm, leading the conversations that move us. Reality check on the National Briefing.
Well, let's get into our reality check segment for this week. Remember, at the core of this segment is an opportunity to pause, to reflect, and to think seriously about the state of South Africa, not just what is happening, but why it's happening, what it's costing us, and what must be done to change it. We also hope to deepen the national conversation, to challenge assumptions, and to sharpen our thinking around the practical steps that are needed to build the South Africa that we want. Our next guest is an academic and leader of an advisory firm that works in youth development, entrepreneurship ecosystems, and organizational transformation in Africa, as well as other emerging markets. Dr. Stephen Zwane is a senior lecturer in strategy, operations, and entrepreneurship at the Gordon Institute of Business Science, University of Pretoria. Dr. Stephen, a very good morning to you. Thank you so much for coming on board and for agreeing to walk the journey with us this week on the reality check. So today, you want to start it off with the youth of 76 and the youth of 26. Different battles, but the same demand for dignity.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for having me, Kathy, and the team. Good morning, South Africa, the SAfm community. Thank you. I think I wrote an article, Kathy, where I was reflecting on 1976, maybe partly because I'm also a 1976 baby, born in November, 4 months after the uprising. And my mom aptly named me Mandla, and I think that was her paying tribute to the struggle. And as somebody who's been in youth development for the last 20 years, one of the things I was asking myself is, what is remembrance? Are we really remembering, or are we really making actual statements about what should the 1976 story reflection should be about? And I think one of the things that I thought would be quite important to talk about in the article was there are a couple of things that the struggles of the 1976 are very different from the struggles of the 2026 community. The youth of 76 were not simply asking to be remembered. They were really demanding a different tune. The real test of commemoration is not the quality of speeches, events, and slogans. I've reflected and looked over the years. That's what 1976 reflection has been about. Every time June 16 happens, we see organizations collecting data set and said, look what we've done for the young people. We see stadiums being filled by people for speeches to be delivered. But we've never seen a scorecard that simply says, 1976, this is what happens, this is the progress we're making, and this is the call to action to the nation. I think for me, that's one of the things that has become quite a gap that I wanted to highlight in the article. But the real test is whether today's young people are safer, are they more educated, more employed, and more included, and more able to shape their own future. If somebody asked me that question, I'll say, yes, that is the truth. However, I don't think we've been able to give them a call to action so that when they think about June 16, they don't think about just the Tsietsi Mashininis of this world. They don't just think about the Hector Peterson, but they think they lost their lives so that my life can be better. But what is the country calling me to do? If I were to ask Kathy today, if you think June 16, what has the government or the state told us as a community to do? What are they telling us to do? To remember just 76? And then how has remembering helped young people? How has it helped us? I think that's one of the fundamental questions I'm asking.
And so if you are then to unpack it for us a bit further, when you talk about the same demand for dignity, what is it that erodes that dignity?
I think there's a number of things, Keith. Number one, I spent a whole day with about 61 15, 16-year-olds. And I asked them, what does June 16 mean for you? I think they could recite courage. They'll recite compromise. They will recite standing for something as young people. They'll recite the fact that a difference was made. But when you ask them, it was for me quite disturbing, Kathy, that about 60% to 70% of them said, please worry about the woman, protect her. And they say, I don't feel safe. I'd like something to be done about the future. I'd like something to be done about me. I'd like to be looked at differently. When we looked at that number, we started to be worried and said, what have we done to try and restore the dignity of the young person? What we observed is that we didn't do much. And some of the drivers of this, I think, is because I don't think we've improved the life of our people, our young people 32 years later. If you look at the state of youth unemployment, the fact that we haven't created companies, new companies in the Johannesburg Stock Exchange, the fact that we haven't lifted people out of poverty, I think we all know those key challenges. For me, the young people have a clear mandate. They're saying we believe that if young people can speak in one voice, there could be a difference. But they're saying we would like the older generation to guide us into what this one voice should be. And I think for me, that was one of the key critical points that were given by the young people in the conversation.
How do we carry that forward, right? And help shape that voice of youth without wanting to impose the thinking and the reflections of a generation on it, right? So that it maintains its essence and it really speaks to where young people are at, because what we see is a great disassociation, right? And that's why young people are not showing up to vote. That's why they're saying it's not that we're not interested in politics, but the system as it is, we don't understand it. It doesn't work for us, so we're going to stay out of it.
You know, one of the first things is we've got the other sort of 11 months to listen to the voices of the young people. I don't think we listen enough. Young people are saying, give us access to education. I don't think we are giving young people enough access to education, because a number of them do well in matric because we promised them to do well in matric, but they don't have spaces in universities, which means we didn't create enough infrastructure. One of the things that is also coming out quite clearly is why do you want me to have experience if I'm only starting my career after matric, after university? Hasn't the corporate world shifted the goalpost of responsibility for my development? And every time I look for an application form, they say you must have a 1 year or 2 years experience. Where do I get that experience? So for me, let's meet the young people where they are. But I think for me, one of the other responsibilities that I think have a level of consciousness. I don't think corporate South Africa is conscious enough of its responsibility beyond the 1% that is given as part of the triple BEE to be able to contribute to society. Number two, I don't think the government is doing enough to heed the call of young people that says, give us opportunities so that we can do something. We need a national service for young people so that we can curb the scourge of youth unemployment in our country. So there are a couple of things that we can do. But I think what I'm asking is, let's do less speeches and do more action and measure the impact of what we're doing with young people.
Dr. Stephen Zwane, we're going to leave it there for this morning. And of course, we'll take some of your reflections then on the reality check.
Across South Africa, online and on radio. SAfm, let's talk.
We've all had the anxiety of wondering if our insurer will pay out our claim. But with Outsurance, you've got peace of mind. The Ombudsman, an independent body that rules on complaints, confirmed in their 2025 annual report that Outsurance had the lowest overturned ratio of complaints received. So switch to Outsurance, the insurer that consistently delivers on what you need insurance to do. Call 0800 60,000 or visit outsurance.co.za today. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
SAfm, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Trouble in Mpumalanga this morning with a big crash involving a bus on the N4 Elands Valley section. That's between Montrose and Waterval-Boven. At a place called Airlie. Now that section, that Elands Valley section of the N4 is closed. Traffic being diverted over Schoemanskloof. And Schoemanskloof is a work zone. All sorts of roadworks there between the Leidenburg exit and Montrose. So you can't at this stage get on Elands Valley. You've got to go Schoemanskloof and you will sit there. Bigger volumes today, back end of a long weekend, plus multiple roadworks of a stop-go nature. The other big story we're watching this morning is, again, that very heavy mist. Ochkies, Emelathleni, down to Kendall area as well, along that N12 corridor. Travel as late this morning as you possibly can. The earlier you go and the heavier that mist is, the more dangerous that section of roadway is. So travel later, if possible, on the N12. And the mist extending from Emelathleni really right down to sort of Leandra and Secunda. With your traffic updates, I'm Rob Byrne.
SAfm traffic with momentum. Just as you plan your route, only 15% of households plan for retirement. Plan yours today. Speak to a Momentum accredited financial advisor for advice that meets your context.
Some say the squeaky wheel gets the grease. Well, sometimes it gets the grease, sometimes it gets replaced. Generic guidance only fits a few situations. That's why Momentum accredited financial advisors take the time to understand you and only then apply their expertise. Advice meets your context. Momentum, your journey to success. Momentum is part of Momentum Group Limited, an authorized financial services and registered credit provider.
We've all had the anxiety of wondering if our insurer will pay out our claim. But with Outsurance, you've got peace of mind. The Ombudsman, an independent body that rules on complaints, confirmed in their 2025 annual report that Outsurance had the lowest overturned ratio of complaints received. So switch to Outsurance, the insurer that consistently delivers on what you need insurance to do. Call 0800 60,000 or visit outsurance.co.za today. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
Top Sport with Michael Abramson.
Let's talk cricket now with our cricket correspondent Ken Borland. What can we read into those 4 matches leading into this tournament? Is there anything that you think Coach Mandla would have learned in terms of his combinations or in terms of how he wants to assess the conditions ahead of this one? Because as you say, tomorrow is so crucial.
In terms of the batting order, we all know that Laura Wolfart and Sune Luss are going to open the batting. We all know Marizan Cup will be in the middle order. Chloe Tryon, Kayla Reinecker, Sinalo Jafta, Nadine de Klerk. Those are your finishers. But positions 3 and 4 are very much up in the air, and he would have been desperate for the contenders in those positions, which is Tasman Brits, Annery Dirksen and Danae van Niekerk, to get some runs in the warm-up matches.
Top Sport on SAfm. Call SAfm now on 086 000 2032.
All right, it's 7:56. You're listening to the National Briefing, the hashtag 50 years later simulcast, and our show in partnership with Voice of Wits radio station. I did mention earlier that that's my alma mater, right? So in fact, the first time I was exposed to radio was at Voice of Wits radio station. So I see Valerie and Greg, they're getting ready to come and take over the airwaves. So if you want to know what the future of radio looks like in South Africa, shall I say, we will be presenting it to you very soon. Because that's how these things go, right? 20 years ago? Is it 20 years now? Almost 20 years. I was at Voice of It. So guess where Greg and Valerie are likely to be in the next 20 years. Before we get to that, though, let me bring in some of your calls. In Pretoria, Gwena, good morning. Rona, go for it.
As the youth of today, and I'm going to speak this broadly to the youth of South Africa, we're still fighting the independence of our state. Yes, we have freedom, but we're not we're not independent as yet as the youth. You look at the leadership that we're having currently, few of the youth are in the leadership. If you check in Botswana, there's a transition. The youth is taking over. Check at the minister of who look after the youth, entertainment, all of that. It's a very young, wonderful lady. But in South Africa, you compare the leadership, you check with the youth, it's two different pathways. And I think it's about time that these people listen to us. I think the issue of the ICJ and this Iran issue and then the Matlanga Commission, it shows how much our leadership is still not independent. There's still people who are controlling this country. There's still people who are deciding what goes where to who, and most of the opportunities within the government, it is within the top management. The youth are not benefiting from them. That's why you see today the youth of South Africa is one of the angry youth, looking at unemployment, looking at missed opportunities, the businesses. That's why you see what we're seeing today with March and March. Check the people who are there. Check the lady, the Zuma lady. She's a youth. She's part of the youth. And you can tell that indeed from when we got the freedom from the 90s until today, not much has been transitioning in terms of the youth. The only thing we've seen is our elders getting richer and richer and richer. Thank you, Sis Kathy.
Yeah, and you know, Gwena, what you're saying is so important because it's about the kind of room that is created for young people to be part of the administration, to be part of the infrastructure. You know, as you were speaking, you reminded me of the late Minister Tito Mboweni and how he was appointed, you know, to being a labor minister in 1994. At the time, he was a young person. He was in his youth when that happened, right? And responsibility to young people is created. Those opportunities are created and they're given. So why are we not seeing them created in the same way that we had those opportunities created for other young people at the time? Yeah, so that was just part of my reflection and just what Gwena evoked in me as he was speaking. All right, I'm looking at the time now. It is time for your latest news update. I'm going to hand you over to Anne Musa, who's standing by with the latest news update.
Thanks, Kathy. In our top stories, 8 people killed in Mpumalanga road crash and a R1 billion fund launched to tackle youth unemployment. Good morning. 8 people have been killed in a collision between a minibus taxi and a truck on the N4 toll road between Ngodwana and Waterval Onder in Mpumalanga. The road is currently closed. The Provincial Community Safety, Security and Liaison Department spokesperson, Moeti Musi, says emergency services personnel are at the scene of the crash.
The cause of the crash remains unclear at this stage. The traffic law enforcement and the emergency personnel are currently at the scene, so the scene is still active. One person sustained critical injuries and several others were injured. More details will be communicated to you in due course.
The Technology Innovation Agency has launched a massive R1.2 billion Technology Innovation Fund. It's aimed to specifically tackle youth unemployment. The agency is an entity of the Science, Technology and Innovation Department. It believes fostering innovation is important for driving economic inclusion and sustainable development for the country's youth. Dr. Titus Mate is the agency's newly appointed CEO.
So it's around about 1.2 billion rand. We're investing this money in the directing critical minerals program so we can create opportunities in South Africa, beneficiation of minerals as we've been talking about as a country. It's a big opportunity to create jobs locally, to promote the use of electric vehicles and also deal with the regulatory issues, create the infrastructure, charging infrastructure so that there's more adoption of electric vehicles in the country. And then the last one where we're injecting money, it's very topical, the AI technology. You heard the innovators talking about what they are planning to do. As you know, young people are so excited. In fact, they are the biggest users of AI.
The family of the June 16 Soweto uprising mastermind Tsietsi Mashinini has spoken out on the golden anniversary of the event. It says without a free and decolonized education, the sacrifices of the generation of that event remain in vain. The historic event expedited the pace of the liberation struggle, which changed South Africa's political trajectory. Mashinini's brother, Dichaba, says if he were to write a letter to the departed 1976 generation, this is what he would say.
Vugani madoda. We are living in a dungeon, economically, socially and otherwise. What you died for has not been achieved. We are still struggling. Very early in our liberation, already there was a song, not yet Uhuru. We are still in that situation. So I'll tell them, you made a sacrifice, you made a contribution, well done, but we've only moved an inch. We have not really achieved what we were fighting for. I don't think learning and teaching or even the curriculum is anything near where these guys would have advocated. If, for instance, you was to say Khoto Siatlolo must be Minister of Education, I think we would be in a better place.
Further afield, an earthquake with a magnitude of 6.7 has struck Indonesia, Sulawesi Island. The country's geophysics agency says the quake's epicenter was located about 42 kilometers southeast of Palu at a depth of 10 kilometers. The agency says there's no tsunami risk following the earthquake which struck this morning. And finally, South Africans have taken to social media to pay tribute to a man some say helped define a genre of the country's jazz. Abdullah Ibrahim died in Germany yesterday at the age of 91. Ibrahim, who was affectionately known as Dollar Brand, was born in Cape Town in 1934. At the age of 7, he started to compose at the piano and picking out tunes on the keyboard. Here's one of Ibrahim's hits, Mannenberg, which he first recorded in 1974. Recapping the top story, 8 people have been killed in a collision between a minibus taxi and a truck on the N4 toll road between Ngodwana and Waterval Onder in Mpumalanga. The road is currently closed. For SAfm News, I am Anne Musa.
It's a very good morning to you. Well, we've seen football's future at the World Cup. Now let's hear from broadcasting's future right here in SAfm studios. Our student team is ready to kick off. Over to you, Masichaba and the team.
Coming up in your sports this hour, Maseko demands higher intensity from Bafana and Clark chases redemption at the US Open. I'll have more details and other stories at 8:30.
The National Briefing on SAfm. Clarity, context, and conversation. This is where the day begins with Kathy Mutlatlana on the National Briefing.
It's 8:07. You're listening to the National Briefing. A warm welcome on this June 16th as we commemorate 50 years of the Soweto uprising. Young people taking a stand, really ensuring that their voices would be heard. Unfortunately, at least 200 of them did not make it back home on that fateful day. We've seen the pictures, we've seen the archive of what that day was like. Today, of course, we talk about not only the youth of 76, but the youth of 26. And the youth of 26 are getting ready to take over the airwaves and lead us into a conversation around what then still needs to be continued. Where does the struggle need to be picked up from? Our guests, or not our guests, our presenters, my co-presenters, Valerie and Greg are back in the studio. They run the breakfast show on Voice of Wits. So these are professionals. I'm going to be leaving you in their very, very capable hands. Valerie, Greg, do you guys want to say hello again to the listeners and tell them what they can expect in the next hour?
VOW breakfast style, though.
VOW breakfast style, yes. So we're super excited for the next hour and the fact that we get to give you an hour to go enjoy your breakfast and your rooibos tea. But we are going to be having a really exciting conversation that kind of ignites the youth to really be active participants in change and the change that they want to see in the future. I mean, I think the youth of 1976 really opened up and moved those barriers for us, but it's now time for us to find and create opportunities for ourselves. So excited for that conversation to be happening.
100%. So we've got a lot coming up your way. We're going to be speaking to a lot of the people that are shaping our nation, youth from all ranges when we consider youth, and the conversation surrounding that. So like we said, if it was 1976, 50 years later in 2026, those are the conversations. We've seen a lot that the youth have been up to since 1976. We saw Fees Must Fall. We saw the HIV/AIDS marches in the 2000s. What is going to be the next 50 years for the youth? All that and more coming up.
Make sure you don't miss out as the Thabo Mbeki Foundation, in collaboration with Classics on Turf, pay tribute to the life and music of Tio Soga in a concert led by Mandisi Yankees with the Renaissance Singers, the Chamber Orchestra of Johannesburg, conducted by Kutlwano Masote. The concert takes place on Saturday, the 20th of June, 7 p.m. at the Wits Great Hall. Tickets are available from web tickets at 300 Rand each. Honoring the legacy of Tio Soga, made possible by Webhold and supported by SAfm.
The Thabo Mbeki Foundation, in collaboration with Classics on Turf, presents a tribute concert honoring the life and music works of Tiyo Soga, one of South Africa's most remarkable composers and literary giants of the 19th century. His music and teachings continue to be celebrated 2 centuries later, and you can join Afro soul and jazz musician Mandisi Jankisi, the Renaissance Singers, and the Chamber Orchestra of Johannesburg under Maestro Kutlwano Masote as they breathe new life into the hymnody of Tiyo Soga on Saturday, the 20th of June, on the stage of the Wits Great Hall. The concert starts at 7 p.m. and tickets can be booked at Web Tickets for 300 Rand, honoring the legacy of Tiyo Soga, made possible by Wiphold and supported by SAfm.
You are listening to the National Briefing with Kathy Mutlatlana.
Welcome back. If you have just joined us, a very good morning to you. You're listening to the Youth Takeover, where VOW, which is Voice of Wits, takes over SAfm. My name is Valerie Makatlaneng. We are going to be joining you all the way until 9 a.m. and I'm doing that with, of course, Greg Landau. As we know, it is Youth Day, and we are commemorating this day to ensure that we really give the youth a voice and ensure that there's a difference between having rights on paper and being able to exercise them in practice. Joining us this morning is Bungcweti Hlongwane. She is advancing constitutional literacy and democratic participation. She's also a part of We the People South Africa, which is a civic education initiative dedicated to promoting knowledge, understanding, and active engagement with the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa. And I think the Constitution is one of those things that provides a framework for opportunity, but government, businesses, society all have to play a part in ensuring that we are turning those rights into meaningful outcomes. And that's a big part of what you guys are doing at We the People SA. So Bungcweti, a very good morning to you. Welcome to SAfm and Voice of It.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, let's talk a little bit about We the People South Africa, a civic education initiative dedicated to promoting knowledge. And I think the Constitution of South Africa, according to Section 29, which focuses on education, is something that's quite progressive and something that we need to look back to kind of give us the framework and the policies that we need to be executing. But what are some of the issues that We the People are specifically trying to tackle head on?
I think the main issue that We the People South Africa is trying to tackle at the moment is the fact that young people don't know, own, and protect the Constitution. So if you don't know what the Constitution promises you, you don't know what your role in achieving a society you want to live in, it makes it hard to own the Constitution and also then to protect your rights that are enshrined in the Constitution. Young people, some people have not even held a Constitution in their hand. People don't know where to access a Constitution, and that's a significant issue in knowing how to be an active citizen and how to create the society you want.
So I'm a law student, and I've obviously deal with the Constitution almost on a weekly basis, but that's definitely through a legal lens. How do you, as We the People, make youth accessing the Constitution accessible? How do you read them through it, allow for the understanding to be a bit more clearer?
I think the main thing that we do in making it more accessible is meeting young people where they are. So right now we have an amazing social media team that works on, meeting the people on TikTok, meeting the people on Facebook, wherever they might be, translating the Constitution into understandable plain language, which it already is in a lot of plain language. Yes, it's a legal document, but the writers of the Constitution wanted it to be accessible. And I think another thing that we do is that, yes, it's a legal document, so it can seem quite intimidating, but another thing that we do is we kind of tell you its history, right? When you know the people who wrote the Constitution, you understand the humanity behind that, then it seems less like, whoa, where does this come from? And we are currently doing that through our 490 project, which is the 490 people who wrote the Constitution.
Wow.
We're going to chat a little bit about the project in just a bit, but it seems as though, on paper, the Constitution is progressive. It is something that we can look back to, but there seems to be a disconnect or perhaps a gap in what's written on paper and the realities of, real people and real South Africans on the ground. Where is sort of that gap, and how do you think we as young people particularly can aim to fill that gap in any kind of way?
I mean, the Constitution's an amazing document, right? It is progressive. It was progressive in 1996. It's progressive now. And I think that for me, the most important, for we the people too. I think the most important thing about the Constitution is that it requires our active participation. It is a living document that has been amended 18 times. And what we as young people need to realize and be aware of is that we have a role to play in shaping our future through, like, the Constitutional Review Committee of Parliament is currently accepting submissions to change the Constitution. If you believe the Constitution needs to be changed, if you believe that there's something about the way that it is written that doesn't serve you, you have the responsibility to change that. I mean, the reason why I would say there's such a big difference is because unemployment, poverty, inequality are such tough issues to solve. And as much as the Constitution sort of offers progressive realization of our socioeconomic rights, we still have a role to play in getting where we need to be.
100%. All right, let's go back into it. You mentioned, the 49 of all the people that you are going to be involving, 490 rather, that have participated in ensuring that we have all these words on paper. Let's talk a bit about that project and what we can expect from
yes.
that. Oh, you just got excited.
No, it's my favorite thing. So I feel like many young South Africans, I was also like, what is this document? Like, oh my gosh, it's not doing anything serious. Like, what does this all mean? And I also didn't quite understand where it came from. And then I started working on the 490 Constitutional Assembly project. So essentially, it is interviews with the real people who wrote the Constitution. So we have interviews from people like Rolf Meyer, Naledi Pandor, who else? Not me blanking on a third name, but we have some really cool people who are currently shaping. Oh yes, Kenneth Moshwe, who tell the stories of what it looked like to be there, to be in that room. So they had only 2 years to write the Constitution, and if not, then it was going to trigger sort of both a referendum on some key issues, and no one wanted that. They wanted to make sure that we had a Constitution that represented South Africans. So we have these normal people, yes, politicians, people who were also part of the administration, who talk firstly about their lives under apartheid, why certain elements of the Constitution are so important, why human dignity is so important, why equality is so important, the experiences of women under apartheid. And all of this is like covered in our 490 video series that is on We the People South Africa's YouTube, and we also post on our Instagram little reels about it to tell people what it's about. And we're just doing really exciting work, just telling people what these people's stories were, how much pressure they were under to write this Constitution, and all the people of South Africa that they met. I mean, these people were on South African National Defense planes going to rural areas to make sure that they captured all of South Africa's thoughts.
Absolutely amazing. We're still in conversation with Bungweti Hlongwane. She is, of course, a part of We the People, which is a civic organization led to dedicate promoting knowledge and understanding, as well as active engagement with the Constitution. When we come back, we're going to chat a little bit about how we as the youth can move the needle forward. The hashtag is 50 years later Simulcast, and I think it's something that we need to talk about just to see what the next steps are when looking to the years ahead. As always, we are going to be taking calls on 086 000 2032, or you can send us a voice note on WhatsApp at 061 410 4107. It's hashtag 50 years later Simulcast. We'll be back on the other side of this.
Life isn't only about what happens around us, it's also about what happens within us. Join SAfm for Reflections from this Sunday on The Alternative Breakfast, a weekly space for thoughtful conversations about life, purpose, relationships, and the human experience. Different voices, fresh perspectives, practical wisdom. Because sometimes the most important conversations are the ones that help us understand ourselves and each other. Reflections about life, meaning, and the ties that bind us. Only on SAfm, leading the conversations that move us.
Call SAfm now on 086 000 2032.
Yeah. Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you are joining us on the Youth Takeover. Valerie and Greg from Voice of Wits are going to be taking over the SAfm airways. And I think the conversation we're having is so important to just ensure that we really are ensuring youth advocate and go out there and vote, because that's what's going to change all the realities that we do have. I think it's important to make sure that we remind the youth that if you are a first-time voter, and even not a first-time voter, you must go out there, register to vote so you can mark your X, because that's what's going to change all the complaints that we have. I think oftentimes we do go out there and say, things aren't going to change, there's no point, but your point is literally that vote, and I do think that it's something important. We have a comment here that says the IEC must change from manual voting to online voting. That way it will encourage the youth to vote. If you can register online, why can't we vote online? And I think we actually did have a little bit of a conversation on our show about this with the IEC, and they were talking about just the difficulty when it comes to digital glitches. If systems were to go offline, if all of these things, it does become a little bit harder to be able to navigate where things may have gone wrong. But I do think the argument is valid.
Yeah, it was one of the first topics I ever had to write about in university. It was the first year law essay, all about e-voting and what us youth thought. And I remember the discussions we had in class at Wits were all about, I think, us as students expressing concerns around it, because if we can't even get basic resources to individuals in rural areas, now we want to take voting onto the electronic platforms. But I think regardless if it's on the ballot or on your screen, I think the importance of the X mustn't be understated.
100%. As we the people, I do think that everything we're saying works hand in hand with ensuring that young people are catalysts for change and they're active participants in ensuring that their lives change. Let's talk a little bit about your message to the youth when it comes to particularly voting and why their vote matters. Because I think oftentimes people say, I don't know who I'm going to vote for, so I'm just not going to vote. Or it seems like I don't want to vote for the big 3 or 4 parties that are major. I'm going to go for a smaller party. And in all of those, what is your opinion and what message would you like to give to the youth when it comes to those elections?
I think the main message that the youth should receive in this regard is that you have the power. The Constitution gives you the power to define your direction. You have the right to vote and you should exercise it. Like, no one can tell you who to vote for, but I think this is where it's also important to not only know your constitution and know your rights, but also be an active participant in your reality. Like, we encourage people to know who their counselor is. Like, who do you go to when there's problems in your area? What are the avenues available to you? And I think that's the most important thing for the youth to focus on. Like, do your research, know what resources are available for you, and shape your own destiny.
And I'm sure youth are obviously new to the system when, we're the first batch of new voters, but I'm sure there are listeners out there today that might be older than perhaps university age and also might not be informed to the same extent that we the people are putting the work in for the youth. So are there also the same resources available to people of mature ages?
Definitely. I mean, as much as We the People focuses on young people and most of our content focuses on young people, we also run a Train the Trainer sort of program, which focuses on other people who have various kinds of organizations. And that's how we also reach a diverse group of audiences. But I think, this is designed for anyone to access it. So if you go on our website, if you read our Know Your Constitution handbook, it's made to be accessible to anybody. I mean, I'm not a law student, but I was reading our Know Your Constitution handbook, which again is free on our website, and I realized that I actually didn't know what progressive realization of rights looks like in the healthcare space. So I learned something, and I think everybody can do that. It's meant to be accessible. It's meant for everybody to read it.
Sure.
And what is the link to your website if people do want to access this these resources for you? Because it sounds like these are crucial resources that youth our age need to be accessing. We live in a country where our constitution is set to undo the injustices of the past. So we can all live in a democratic, free, dignified South Africa. So where would we be able to access those?
You can just look up We the People SA, and it should be the first yellow page that pops up.
Yeah, bringing all the sunshine with it, Yellow. But as we wrap up, I do think something we want to get into is, the whole conversation that we've had, you've really articulated why it's so important for us to, one, be in touch with our constitution, but two, to understand it so we know how to exercise it. What, in your view, looks like a fully empowered constitutional citizen? For someone that is able to say, okay, I understand my rights, I understand what rightfully I can, fight for and not fight for, and therefore I'm operating in a way that is, a fully empowered constitutional citizen.
I would say somebody who has the copy of their constitution in their bag with them, who's able to stand up for themselves using it. Somebody who is able to knows who their counselor is, knows when to vote, and also empowers their community, understands and identifies causes and ways that they can participate in civil society. Because we're always taught that, it has to be politics to change your life. But what organizations close to you can you use to shape your reality? And just know first all your basics politically, and additionally know what you can do, what is close to you. Not all of us can be law students and engage in our reality through the law, but some of us can be researchers, some of us can be community organizers, some of us can be the hairstylist who reminds you to vote.
And I think the work you're doing, I know the work you at We the People are doing is really work that's going to impact the future generations for the next 50 years of youth in our country. Have you got a message this morning for all the young minds, young ears listening to the show that might feel a bit disappointed or dismal? Discouraged. That's the word I was looking for, about the current state of it. But perhaps you can inspire us this morning as the youth.
That's a heavy burden.
No pressure.
I would say that it is pretty glum half the time. It doesn't look great. It looks scary, and you are just one person. So it feels like there's hardly anything you can do half the time. But I think we always need to remember that the youth of 1976 were able to achieve what they did because, yes, they were brave, but also they worked together. They established a common vision and outlook, and they used that to drive them, even in the scariest places, in the scariest time. And I think we need to figure out what our vision is. We need to figure out what we actually want. And I hope we dream big about this. It can't just be something small. I wanted to scare us. I wanted to scare us like the thought of ending apartheid was for the youth of 1976, of getting equal education. Sure. And I think we need a vision that scares us and that brings us together.
There's one of the quotes that I absolutely love that says, if your dreams don't scare you, they're not big enough. And I do think that's something we in the youth really, really need to inspire and become more hungry and not be, that generation. I think with Gen Zs, they just say with a generation that cares so much about mental health and just wants to give up. But I do want to implore young people to really, really fight for the betterment of their lives and ensure that, they're actually participating in their own future, because at the end of the day, the leaders that we have now are a little bit older, which means there will come a time where the youth now needs to be in power. But will we know what to do with all of that, which is something that we really, really need to put at the forefront. We did say we're going to take some of your calls, 086 000 2032. Let's take a listen to what they've had to say. Good morning. How are you?
Morning. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Thank you so much for calling in.
Oh, I thank you for taking my call. My name is Daniel.
Hi, Daniel.
I've got a problem of what is happening on SAB actually, for the sake of youth of Venda, Tonga, those people which they are there in Polokwane or Venda, that side. All the channel of SABC today, they are playing with the Zulu language. What about the future of those young child which is growing that vendor? How can you know the talent of those people if everyone, if it need to work at SABC, must speak in Zulu language? All the channel, all the soap which I know, which is left from Polokwane, is only one Skim Sam. Even on Skim Sam, how many Zulu people now are there? Not even single vendor on that soap. Where are we going?
Sure.
As a SABC, where are we going?
I mean, Daniel, I
All
think
those other language.
Absolutely.
If you can check on SABC, the vendor language, they even read the news only on 5 o'clock.
Sure.
Where are we?
Daniel, thank you so much for your comment. And I do think what you have to say is extremely valid, because I do think representation is what really assists us in seeing ourselves represented in our leaders, in all of those things. So your comment is very valid, and thank you so much for that. I do think it's something they really need to look on. They are more than just the Nguni languages. There are those minority languages that also need to be represented. So Daniel, thank you so much for that comment. Bungcweti Hlongwane, Advancing Constitutional Literacy and Democratic Participation at We the People. Thank you so much for coming to join us. It's been a pleasure spending our morning with you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Happy Youth Day.
Happy Youth Day.
In your headlines this hour, Gotongwana refuses to disclose SARS probe details into Phala Phala Buffalo buyer, and more buses arrive for Malawian nationals awaiting repatriation from Durban. Catch these and more at the top of the hour.
Do you ever call you'd like to sell, but don't trust your uncle or your pal? Then we buy cars, it's just for you. Buying cars is what we do. We offer service with a smile. We always go the extra mile. Use a place that you trust and sell your car to us.
We buy cars, the easiest way to sell your car by far.
Oh, yeah, boy. In 1976, youth switch on, and for 50 years the nation has watched as the story unfolds. And namhlanje, courage looks the same and different. It looks like showing up when no one believes in you. It's about finding the strength to stand up again. The courage of 1976 is a pillar in 2026. SAPC 1, Mzansi for sure, the source of youth courage. My gosh.
This is SAfm Sport with Zai Khan.
All right, it's 8:31, a special broadcast with Voice of Wits here on the National Briefing. And haven't they just been doing such a wonderful job and dealing with content that really speaks to the heart of what young people need to be aware of today in order to exercise their agency in its fullness. So Masichaba is standing by with your latest sports update. Masichaba, what do you have for us?
So we'll be speaking about Maseko's demands on higher intensity from Bafana in the upcoming game on Thursday. And then in the US, Class chases redemption after 3 years of not being in competition at the US Open. A very good morning to you from the SAfm Sports Desk. We start off with your football news. Bafana winger Thapelo Maseko calling on his teammates to up their game as South Africa looks to keep its 2026 FIFA World Cup hopes alive following the opening defeat to Mexico after 16 years of no show on the global stage. Now, reflecting on the 2-0 loss to Mexico, Maseko admitted that the squad was disappointed by the result, but still the players have already shifted from their focus to a crucial clash against Czech this coming Thursday.
Yeah, the entirety of the team was not really happy about the result, but yeah, we oath and we talked about it, and yeah, we want to improve. We want to improve as much as it's a big tournament and there's very big teams participating, but we must showcase our talents and don't let down the people of South Africa.
Now, despite the setback, Bafana will aim for a comeback against Czechia to overturn the narrative on Thursday, and the match will kickstart at 6 p.m. Now, elsewhere, Cape Verde announced themselves on the global stage of football again with a remarkable 0-0 draw against Spain in their first ever World Cup match. Now, the result in Atlanta ranks amongst the biggest upsets of the tournament thus far, with their African debut and frustrating the reigning European champions throughout the Group H encounter. Now, Spain dominated possessions with nearly 75% of the balls and fired 27 shots at goal, but they found no way past the veteran goalkeeper Vorzina. Now, the 40-year-old produced a a series of outstanding saves, including a crucial stop from Pedri, Varane, Torres, and Mikel Oyarzabal, earning Player of the Match honours and helping the Cape Verde secure a historic first World Cup point. Now, moving on into your golf, former US Open champion Wyndham Clark prepares for his US Open at Chinook Hills. Clark, who lifted the US trophy in 2023, is returning to the championship a year after damaging a locker at Oakman Country Club following a missed cut. Now, the incident led to a ban from the course, with Oakman requiring him to pay for the repairs, making a charitable contribution and complete counselling-related conditions before any future return could be considered. Now, speaking ahead of the tournament, the 32-year-old admitted that he deeply regrets the outburst and described the experience as a major learning outcome.
There are so many good lessons in that that really taught me a bunch, and I've really come a long way, and I'm excited for this year's Open for some redemption and to move forward and enjoy the challenges of Shinnecock and how great this place is and how amazing this championship is.
Now, coming in for redemption, the American arrives at the year's third major renewed confidence after ending a lengthy winless run by capturing the CJ Cup Brian Nelson title earlier this season. Now, that's all the sports I have for you for this hour. I'll be back on VOW Breakfast next week, but for now, for our sports, I am Machama Kapele.
Call SAfm now on 086 000 2032.
It's 8:36. You're listening to the National Briefing on this special 50th commemoration of Youth Day as we mark 50 years since the generation of 76 took to the streets in an uprising like no other. So 76 versus 26. And I don't even like the versus, right? Because it creates competition of sorts. So let's say 76 juxtaposed against 26. And Valerie and Greg, I want to get a little bit under your skin now, right? Because in the last conversation that you had, it was focusing on young people understanding the power of this constitution, understanding the agency that they can exercise within the framework of this constitution. You are on campus every single day, at least when you're not
doing other things.
Yeah. We'll sort it. Yes, as far as your parents are concerned, you're on campus every single day. You're interacting with other young people your age. What do you find to be the biggest concerns that young people have about their futures and that you have about your futures? Because your experience is not exempt from the experience of other young people around you.
Yeah.
Greg?
Well, I think it's different for many different types of youth. I think the female students at Wits, that some of their biggest challenges are knowing if they're going to be safe walking back to their res at night in Braamfontein. Last year we saw a big campaign against gender-based violence, which I think really sparked something within the Wits student body. I think the financial situation a lot of the youth are in, with the highest brackets of unemployed people in the country, and I think there is a sense of what next, because we're at this amazing institution just down Empire Road here in Johannesburg, but what next? What does it mean going into a world where so many of our brothers and sisters are unemployed or struggling to find work? So that's what I would say.
Yeah.
Valerie?
I mean, for me, I think, Wits has actually just recently been voted #1 institution in Africa. And it's really, really exciting. Congrats to us. Yeah. But what I think is really, really important is that, rather scary, is that doesn't automatically say you are good. That doesn't mean once you have the paper and you have the degree, you're set. There's still so many unemployed graduates that are sitting with these degrees. So for me, I think the biggest fear is exactly that, what the future holds, where we're also seeing a huge gap within the skills mismatch, where the qualification does not match the demands of the industry. It does not match the demands of the job market. And, we're sitting with all these qualifications, but we don't have the skills to be able to get into these opportunities and create, a future for ourselves that feeds feeds back into the same economy that we are complaining about. So for me, it's, you're told, go to school, okay, matriculate, okay, get the degree, you get the degree, and now it's like, okay,
it's the end of the line.
What do
for
I
a lot
do
of
now?
people.
So,
Yeah.
And the thing is, it's added pressure in that the target almost keeps shifting, right? Because now it's not just about get a degree. Now you have to graduate top of your class, and then but now no, now that's not good enough anymore. So now you have to be to have been doing other things, right? So yes, we see academically you're good, but what's the rest of your life look like on campus? So it seems like there's just more being added to this list of things to do in order to somewhat guarantee future success. How do you balance that, Craig, as you're navigating your life on campus, just needing to pass and also being mindful of the fact that the future holds so many uncertainties?
I think it's a good question, and definitely one that's relevant for many students that I'm studying with. And I think it's a reality that you think about every day. What next? And I think as you pass through the lecture halls of WITS or UJ or UCT, you always think about that what next step. And I think for me, it's just about doing my best. It's about the people I'm with. And I think that's probably, I think the key in my mind to getting through it's the people you surround yourself with, having good friends, having great mentors, people we look up to, media we consume. I think it's a really holistic approach, and I'm giving a bit of a politician answer here to it, but it's true. I really think you need it's multifaceted. You need a lot of things that can really excel you to the next stage. So at least from my perspective, I'm trying to surrounding myself with good colleagues, good friends, consuming good news, and just trying to make it through each day.
That's like the correlation of 50 years later, right? Because the youth of 76 was so adamant on the sense of community, where they were doing everything together to kind of get this message across, and that's still something that's extremely important today. So I think really, really exciting that you mentioned that, because it's still something that's happening to this day.
It's so good to get your reflections and your insights just on being students, life on campus, and I guess the concerns, but hopefully we'll end off a little bit later with the hopes, right? Because I know there are absolutely things that give you hope for the future. So it's our hashtag 50 years later Simulcast on the National Briefing. In studio with me is Valerie and Greg. They do the morning show at Voice of Wits. And so you guys are going to continue with the lineup that you have scheduled. I understand you've got an interview standing by.
We do. We just want to talk a little bit about climate change, something that young people are not as in tune with it as they should be, but it affects us on a daily basis. So that conversation is coming up on the other side of this.
Call SAfm now on 086 000 2032.
All right, welcome back to SAfm on this Youth Day edition. You're listening to the Voice of Wits right here on SAfm. That's right, it's a simulcast. 50 years since the youth of 1976 took to the streets of Soweto to stand up for their rights. Otsila Kadimeng, born 2004, has joined us on the line. They are a prominent South African climate change activist and youth civic leader, and working with the Sundial movement, co-founding this network to coordinate climate education and strikes across South African high schools. They join us on the line this morning. Otsila, very good morning to you. Welcome to the simulcast of VOW 88.1 and SAfm on Youth Day.
Good morning to you and all of your listeners. It's a real privilege to be here.
It's a real privilege to have you. I'm just going to ask, your line isn't so good. If you wouldn't mind just going a bit closer to your microphone, that would be great for us and our listeners this morning. Thank you for joining us again. It's great to have you. We wanted to kick things off with just about bringing us into the world of work that you cover. You are working in climate change, and I think that's obviously a big word that youth of our generation have had. I had classmates that would leave class on a Friday to go to climate change protests at school, and I wanted to understand the work that you're doing in the climate activist space here in South Africa.
Yes. So really the scope of the climate work that has been done and has been done over a really long period of time that I've been involved with, well, it starts with policy side. I formed part of the Youth Policy Committee at the South African Institute of International Affairs all the way back in high school, and we helped write the South African Youth Climate Action Plan, which is a first of its kind youth document that serves as a guiding document for government as they establish new frameworks and policies around how they respond to climate change. It gives effectively an expression to the desires of young people when it comes to climate policy. But then there's the activist sphere, entities like Fridays for Future, which is an international youth climate movement founded by Greta Thunberg. I once served as the lead coordinator for that. I no longer serve in that capacity now. The focus of my work really has been in being the co-founder of So We Vote, which is a youth voting advocacy group. We work to fight voter apathy, to register young people for elections, and to help stimulate the discourse around what renewing South Africa's democracy looks like.
Yeah, well, let's talk about that. November bringing us closer to the local government elections. What work are you hard at work with at the moment, ensuring that young people go to the polls this coming November?
At its core, at So We Vote, what we exist to do is to help people find entities, political parties that effectively speak to their needs and desires, especially young people. Because we aren't in a space where we can actually rewrite the history of what democracy has been like, the lived expression of it for young people. But we are in a position where, for those who are at least keen on finding a vessel that can express in the political sphere their hopes, their desires, that can push these proposals that they want to see pushed on a national level, we serve as the guiding post for that. And so what we're at Hardwood Work doing now is we are implementing a schools program in schools. Right now we're piloting it in the Western Cape. That's where my co-founder Tafir Mustafa is. And we are piloting a program that is starting at RCL levels to get young people to understand the value of what representative democracy is, that it's more than just marking an X on a ballot, that the people who themselves raise their hands, those are people that have to be ethical leaders. Those are leaders that have to represent the interests of the people they want to serve. And so it's intended not only to help you understand why we vote and why representative democracy is important, but it's also intended to make people think, well, maybe I should put up my hand. Maybe I should see if I can get in the arena.
Yeah.
Because that's what we need more of. We need more young people getting in the arena.
Sure.
And then on the other side, what we do is we are actively going and pushing people to register to vote before the local government elections, because this is a consequential election. The service delivery things that we all feel are as a result of local government administration.
Sure.
And so we're pushing that message. We're getting people registered. We're using the IEC's portal. We are a partner to the IEC in the work that we do. And so that is what we at So We Vote are busy on the ground with now.
And I mean, Otsile, what we are trying to do today is really bring young people closer to all the things that matter in ensuring they secure a better future. And I think climate change is one of those things that we as the youth genuinely, honestly, are not really we're not really in tune with it. It's not something that we're putting at the forefront. When you're younger in primary school, you remember the reduce, reuse, recycle, but it's not something that we take all the way until we are much older. And I mean, you are one of the people that co-drafted the South African Youth Climate Action Plan and advises the Presidential Climate Commission as well as the Swedish Embassy on all of these matters. What would you say is kind of the biggest threat that young people possess when it comes to the likes of climate change in our future?
Well, climate change is one of those, there's the term that's used by the scientific community is it is an extinction level event because of the level of devastation that can be just brought on by it. This is more than just, it's unseasonally warm in certain parts of the year and in certain parts of the country. No, this is, you see changes in how we make food. You see changes in how we're
Coming back
able
to the conversation, he's saying I must wrap up.
We're able to collect water. We see changes in how, food systems sanitation systems, health and security systems, they're all put under pressure and they buckle because all of these different factors that are natural start to change. And so, I still remember, I think it was a year or two ago, when around the Horn of Africa, we were reading headlines about what they called a once-in-a-generation famine that was wiping out that region and people were suffering. That wasn't a function of war or conflict or displacement. That was a function of environmental changes, climate change. And, when we reach a place in society and in the world where wars are now going to be fought over freshwater resources because, there's less rain and we're less able to collect water, this is going to be something that's not only going to put governments under extreme pressure and extreme strain, it's going to put society under extreme pressure and extreme strain. And so we've been calling for the longest time for leaders in government, leaders in business, leaders in society to take up their mandate to say, with COVID-19, when this pandemic emerged, people didn't know much about it. People didn't know much about the science. But you as leaders of society took it upon yourselves to not only educate society about this problem, but to mobilize a solution around it. The same exists for climate change. We must educate society about this, and then we must mobilize society in getting a solution that is sustainable and that is equitable, because this is also an opportunity to reconstruct the economic face of our country.
Absolutely. That is the voice of Utsile Nkadime, a prominent South African climate activist and youth civic leader, just giving us insight on why it's so important that we also look after our world and our environment as much as we look after ourselves. These are the things that will ensure that we live in a better environment. Thank you so much for that, and I hope you have a great day further.
Thank you.
Keep moving through 6 a.m. call times, the rain, dirt tracks, and moving through tight deadlines. Because you move with purpose, from the first stop to the final drop. The Hino 700 truck tractor comes standard with a 6-year drivetrain warranty and advanced safety features tailored to your industry. The Hino 700 is built to fuel your business's progress. Hino, all the way.
Oh, yeah, Club Soweto. In 1976, youth switcher on, and for 50 years the nation has watched as the story unfolds. And namhlanje, courage looks the same and different. It looks like showing up when no one believes in you. It's about finding the strength to stand up again. The courage of 1976 is appealing in 2026. SAPC 1, Mzansi for sure, the source of youth courage. My God.
We all get insurance for the moment something goes wrong, and when it does, you need the peace of mind of knowing your claim will be handled fairly. Outsurance keeps outperforming. The Ombudsman, an independent body that rules on complaints, confirmed that in their 2025 annual report that Outsurance had the lowest overturned ratio of complaints received. Why would you want to be insured with anyone else? Get a quote and switch today. Call 08600 0060 000 or visit outsurance.co.za. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's and information online.
Are we ready for a real conversation? SAfm, leading the conversations that move us.
Welcome back to the Youth Takeover here on Voice of It, as well as SAfm. And I think it's been an eventful day that we have gotten an opportunity to share these couple of hours with you and really express what the youth are looking for when they go out there and say they need a platform, they need a voice. It's to ensure that we are able to kind of share all these messages and give, people that are perhaps not part of our generation, just some insight and a look into the needs and requests of young people.
Yeah, and I think we'll wait to see what the president has to say later. He's addressing the public at the FNB Stadium this morning. But it's been a great day, Val. It gives me a lot of hope sitting here in studio at the SABC. 50 years from the youth of 76, and now thinking about what the next 50 years are going to be. We've heard climate change, we've heard constitution, we've heard so much this morning about it, and it's really given me a lot of hope for our future as youth.
I love that. I'm going to read a comment here. It says, we young folks have a keen sense of awareness about things, sometimes at our own peril, but plenty of opportunities to bind together and make a game changer more user-friendly. Like we did for social media platforms, just share the simplest and integral parts of any complex topic and issue, mobilization that is self-sustaining and approachable to all. AI helps too, which is from Spamangla from Gqeberha. I actually love that they said AI helps too, because we are living in a digital age, and that's something that we as the youth are using as a catalyst to kind of accelerate some of the things that we are doing. We did mention earlier that there is, of course, a detriment to the use of all these artificial intelligence platforms. However, it comes with the generations, and unfortunately, we are that generation that's using it. So I'm excited for this new digital age that we are a part of.
100%. And I think, listen, if you are a young person out there today, you're sitting here on Youth Day, 6 minutes till 9 a.m., and maybe you're feeling a bit disappointed about the future, you're feeling a bit hopeless, this is your day to shine. It's our day to shine. Let me reclaim that. This is our day as young people of South Africa. Go out and make change. And I know it may not seem as easy as it does now, but there are so many things available to us, and the biggest one is the will to do it. And we saw the youth of 76. They had the will. They were able to organize among one another to push for things that they felt was right. And this is what we've seen as students. When we come together, we're able to do it. Whether it was Fees Must Fall many years ago at the university, we saw the gender-based violence campaigns at the end of last year. It's the youth that's going to drive our future forward.
Sure.
And that's the message I'm going to put forward to you, the youth of Mzansi, listening this morning.
Absolutely. So the youth of 1976 removed all those barriers for us. They fought hard. The Constitution provided the framework, and now it's us as the youth of 2026 to ensure that we are catalysts for change and actually get up and try. I think trying is the best thing ever. We're going to read one more comment. Keep the kids learning to use tech in context to help granny and the nephews in the villages. Absolutely agree with that one, because my gran for sure is thinking to me, wow, Nyaka gets on your WhatsApp. And it's one of those things, and just progressing.
Yeah. And when I think about WhatsApp, and you see how sometimes more older elderly people struggle a bit, I think of myself, and I think this is how I'm going to be in 20 years time. There'll be new technologies that are introduced, and somebody's going to be helping me navigate what is an emoji, how do we use it, right? So I firstly want to say well done to the two of you, Valerie and Greg. You've been absolutely fantastic. Do we have a round of applause for Valerie and Greg? Mpho, how long? Mpho's looking at Mpho's the technical director, is looking at me like, girl, you're on your own.
I wanted a round of applause on SAfm.
Yeah, no, I don't think we're going to. It means that he's not about to find a round of applause anytime soon. But anyway, you've got my round of applause. Snaps right here. Very well done to both of you for carrying the segment so well. You've been absolutely phenomenal, and I know that the future of broadcasting is absolutely in safe hands. And it's so important that we have days and moments like this, because today you've got a young person walking into SAfm just for the experience of being part of a national broadcast. In 10 years' time, they're the one that's reading your bulletin. In 15 years' time, they're the one that's sitting behind the microphone here. And this is how we pass the baton on. This is how we bring that intergenerational, not only leadership, mentorship, but I think creation of opportunities. So earlier, Greg and Valerie, I asked you guys what your concerns are. Usually towards the end of the show, we'll do Built in Mzansi that really gives us a reason to believe in South Africa, just because of the work, the innovations that different people in the country are embarking on. So today we don't have Built in Mzansi, but I am going to ask each of you, what gives you hope about this beautiful country that we live in as a young person? Valerie?
Sure. I mean, I'm a creative, and I think we spoke a little bit about this earlier, but just seeing how the creative sector is finally being appreciated for the beauty and the value that it puts back into the economy. And that for me gives me a different sense of hope, because for a long time the creative sector was so looked down upon. It was one of the minority sectors, the industry that's not really appreciated. But now we're seeing global superstars making a name for themselves. We're seeing Amapiano really giving young creatives a platform to be able to live their dreams and experience the world in a completely different way. And that for me gives me hope, because as the gentleman said earlier, representation is extremely important. And if I'm able to see myself and other people, and I'm seeing these other people prosper and be able to be global sensations or people that are world leaders and are really making a change, then I know it's definitely possible for me too. So it means that spirit is in the neighborhood, and it's just about time when I catch it.
Greg, you've got 20 seconds. Valerie took up all
I'm sorry.
45 seconds.
For me, it's the people.
Yeah.
Whether it's the cheer when Bafana score a goal, the Springboks score a try, or it's just walking in the streets of Braamfontein and you hear that hola, or just the pride we have as South Africans, one of the hardest working people and vibrant nations in the whole world. I'm just inspired every single day by the beautiful people of this great nation.
And I also want to say, Kathy, shout out to you for allowing us to share this platform with you and really, really be a part of, the people that are creating voices and opportunities for young people. So thank you so much.
It's been a pleasure having you on. I know I would have half died being at Voice of Wits and being asked to be part of a broadcast like this. I would have given my right and maybe even my left limb for it. So I know exactly how much it means being a young broadcaster and thinking about the possibility of what the future holds. So I'm going to say goodbye, but I'm also going to allow you to say your official goodbye, the way that you do it, Voice of Wits style, as we hand over to the Daily Discourse with Joanne Joseph, who's also going to be doing a Simulcast special broadcast with the Northwest University. So Greg, Valerie,
over to us. All right. Thank you so much for tuning into VOW Breakfast alongside SAfm for the June 16th Youth Day takeover.
Hold on, we're getting everyone in the studio right now. We're getting the whole team in.
It's been an absolute pleasure hanging out with you for the past 3 hours. We will be back on Monday, 7 to 9 a.m. on VOW 88.1. For now, though, stay tuned to SAfm for the rest of the day. We love and leave you by saying bye-bye.
In our top stories, 8 people killed in a collision along the N4, and Soweto set for commemorative march in Orlando West. Good morning. Emergency services personnel are still at the scene of a crash where 8 people were killed in Mpumalanga. The collision between a minibus taxi and a truck happened on the N4 toll road between Ngodwana and Waterval Onder this morning. The road is still closed. The province